Welcome to DC What If. Today we bring you an unforgettable story. What if Batman was trapped in the Resident Evil Outbreak? Loving our content? Smash that like button and join our family by subscribing. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let the story begin. Chapter 1, Dark Night in Hell's City. Batman's head throbbed with pain as consciousness returned. His eyes snapped open beneath the cowl, instantly alert despite the disorientation. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The acrid smell hit him first: smoke, decay, and something else. Something biological. He'd been investigating bioweapon smuggling in Gotham's East End docks. A shipping container from a company called Umbrella Pharmaceuticals had triggered his suspicions after hacking into their encrypted manifests. Then there was a flash of light, pain, and now. This wasn't Gotham. Batman rose to his feet in one fluid motion, ignoring the protest of aching muscles. He stood in the middle of a street he didn't recognize. Cars abandoned haphazardly. Store windows shattered. Blood, too much blood, smeared across sidewalks and walls. Alfred, he touched his cowl's communication system. Nothing but static. Alfred, come in. Still nothing. A quick systems check confirmed what he already suspected: his suit was damaged. The cowl's advanced electronics were malfunctioning. GPS offline. Communications down. The built-in computer still worked but couldn't connect to the Batcave servers. Batman took inventory of what still functioned. Reinforced armor plating intact. Some basic detective tools in his belt. 3 batarangs. Grapnel gun with limited charge. Smoke pellets. Disruptor. No explosive gel. No rebreather. Limited options. A moan from behind made him spin around, batarang already in hand. A man stumbled from an alley. No, what remained of a man. Gray skin hung off exposed muscle. One arm twisted at an impossible angle. Milky dead eyes. And that moan, hungry, mindless. The walking corpse lurched toward him. Batman's mind processed the impossible sight in seconds. He'd faced Professor Pyg's Dolatrons, Poison Ivy's plant-human hybrids, even Solomon Grundy. But this was different. This thing wasn't alive in any meaningful sense. The creature lunged with surprising speed. Batman sidestepped, analyzing its movement patterns. Uncoordinated but relentless. No self-preservation instinct. It turned to face him again, jaws snapping. "What happened to you?" Batman growled, knowing he wouldn't get an answer. 3 more emerged from another alley. Then 2 more from a store entrance. Soon, a dozen shambling figures converged on him. Their collective moans echoed through the empty street, a hungry chorus announcing their approach. Batman fired his grapnel gun at a nearby building's fire escape, launching himself upward as decayed hands grasped at empty air below. From his new vantage point, he surveyed the devastation. The city, whatever city this was, had descended into chaos. Fires burned unchecked in multiple buildings. Cars piled up at intersections. Bodies lay in the streets. And the walking dead wandered everywhere. A police car caught his eye, not GCPD's black and white, but blue and white with RPD emblazoned on its side. RPD, Raccoon Police Department. He'd never heard of it. A gunshot cracked through the moaning chorus, followed by several more. Someone else was alive down there. Batman tracked the sound to a figure moving tactically between abandoned vehicles, a woman in what looked like a tactical uniform. She fired with precision, dropping the walking dead with headshots, conserving ammunition. She was good. Trained. Military or law enforcement. The woman ducked behind an overturned delivery truck, reloading her handgun. She hadn't seen the dead police officer rising behind her, reaching with gray fingers. Batman didn't hesitate. He leapt from the fire escape, cape spreading to slow his descent, landing behind the reanimated officer. A swift kick sent it sprawling away from the woman. She spun around, weapon instantly trained on Batman. "Stay back," she ordered, eyes widening at his appearance. Batman raised his hands slightly. "I'm not your enemy. What the hell are you supposed to be?" Her gun remained steady, aimed at his chest. "I could ask you the same question," Batman replied. "RPD. Esteris," she corrected, eyeing him suspiciously. "Special Tactics and Rescue Service. Jill Valentine." The police zombie had regained its footing, lurching toward them again. Without looking, Jill fired a perfect headshot, dropping it permanently. "Nice shot," Batman said. "You still haven't told me who, or what, you are." Jill kept her gun level, though her eyes darted to the approaching zombies. "Batman. Seriously? You're wearing a Halloween costume during a bioweapon outbreak." "It's not a costume," Batman growled, then nodded toward the growing crowd of Walking Dead. "We should move. Now." Jill's professional instincts won out over her suspicion. "Fine. I'm heading to the police station. It's fortified, might have survivors. Lead the way." They moved through the streets with practiced efficiency, Jill in front with her firearm, Batman covering their rear. Neither wasted movement or energy. They communicated with gestures and nods like veterans who'd worked together for years, not strangers who'd met minutes ago. "So what's your story, Batman?" Jill asked as they paused in an alley, catching their breath. "Raccoon City isn't exactly a tourist destination, especially now. I was investigating bioweapon smuggling in my city. There was an accident. I woke up here." "Your city?" "Gotham." Jill frowned. "Never heard of it." That confirmed Batman's growing suspicion. Either he'd been transported much farther than he thought, or something even stranger had happened. Dimensional displacement wasn't beyond possibility, he'd encountered it before with Justice League missions. "What happened here?" he asked. "Umbrella Corporation happened," Jill's voice hardened. "Pharmaceutical company, biggest employer in Raccoon City. They've been developing biological weapons under the city for years. My team, Esteris, discovered their secret lab in the Arkley Mountains outside town. Most of my teammates died. The survivors tried to blow the whistle, but Umbrella owns half the city officials. And now? The virus escaped somehow. Started in the outskirts 3 days ago. By yesterday, downtown was overrun." She checked her ammunition. 6 bullets left. Batman nodded toward an apartment building across the street. "We need to find you more ammunition and supplies. That building looks relatively secure." Jill studied the 5-story apartment complex. Most windows were intact. The main entrance had security doors, now hanging open. Might have food and medical supplies too. "Stay close," Batman said. They crossed the street, avoiding the shuffling dead rather than engaging them. Conservation of energy and resources, Batman approved of Jill's tactical approach. She might not trust him, but she was professional enough to work with him. The apartment lobby was eerily quiet. Blood smeared the floor and walls. A security guard's body lay behind the reception desk, the back of his head missing. He didn't turn, Jill noted. Must have been shot after death. Batman examined the guard's holster. Empty. Someone took his weapon. "Survivors," Jill said, hope entering her voice for the first time. They moved up the stairwell, checking each floor methodically. The second floor showed signs of looting, doors broken open, apartments ransacked. The third floor was mostly intact but abandoned. On the fourth floor, they heard it, a child crying. Jill and Batman exchanged glances. They approached the sound cautiously, tracking it to apartment 4C. The door was barricaded from inside. "RPD." Jill called. "Is anyone in there?" The crying stopped. Silence. We're here to help, Jill continued. We can get you somewhere safe. They're all dead, a small voice finally answered. A girl, maybe 8 or 9. Mom told me not to open the door for anyone. Your mom was right, Batman said, his voice gentler than his usual growl. But the situation has changed. We can protect you. You don't sound like police, the girl said suspiciously. I'm Jill Valentine, STRS Alpha Team. My friend is. She glanced at Batman. I'm Batman, he said simply. A pause. Then, like the superhero? Batman and Jill exchanged surprised looks. Yes, Batman answered. Like the superhero. Mom reads me Batman comics sometimes, the girl said. But Batman isn't real. I'm real enough, Batman replied. And right now, I'm here to help you. What's your name? Emma. Emma, we need you to open the door. It's not safe to stay here alone. Another long pause. Then sounds of furniture being moved. The door opened just enough for a small face to peer through, a girl with red hair and frightened eyes. You really look like Batman, she whispered, eyes wide. Emma, where's your mother? Jill asked gently. The girl's eyes filled with tears. She went to find medicine for Grandpa 3 days ago. She didn't come back. Batman knelt to the child's level. I'm sorry, Emma. But we need to move to somewhere safer. Can you be brave and come with us? Emma nodded slowly. Let me get Mr. Snuggles. She disappeared into the apartment, returning moments later with a worn teddy bear and a small backpack. Mom packed emergency supplies, she explained. Water and energy bars. Smart mom, Jill said, helping the girl with her backpack. Batman scanned the hallway. We need to keep moving. The police station is still our best option. They continued their careful progress through the building, now with Emma between them. The girl stayed silent, clutching her teddy bear with one hand and holding Jill's hand with the other. On the building's top floor, they hit the jackpot, an apartment belonging to a gun enthusiast. Weapon cases displayed hunting rifles, shotguns, and handguns. Thank God for the Second Amendment, Jill muttered, examining a 9mm Beretta similar to her service weapon. Locked cases though. Batman examined the cases, then pulled a small tool from his utility belt. The locks yielded within seconds. Jill raised an eyebrow. Handy skills for a superhero. I prefer detective, Batman replied, opening the gun cabinet. Jill quickly selected a Beretta and spare magazines. She hesitated over a shotgun, then took it as well, along with a box of shells. Don't suppose you use guns, Batman? No. Right. Comic book code, she said with a hint of skepticism. Must be nice to have principles. It's not about principles, Batman said, examining the apartment for other useful items. It's about effectiveness. Against zombies, bullets are pretty effective. Until you run out. Jill couldn't argue with that logic. She watched as Batman collected first aid supplies from the bathroom and kitchen knives from drawers. You really think we can make it to the RPD? She asked quietly, glancing at Emma who was looking out the window. We don't have a choice, Batman replied. I need information. You need backup and supplies. The girl needs protection. A crash from the hallway interrupted their conversation, heavy footsteps approaching. Not the shambling gait of the zombies they'd encountered so far. Something bigger. Batman moved to the door, listening. The footsteps stopped outside their apartment. Then, a tremendous impact shook the door in its frame. Emma, hide, Jill ordered, raising her newly acquired Beretta. Batman positioned himself beside the door, batarang ready. He met Jill's eyes and nodded. The door exploded inward as something massive burst through, a hulking figure that once might have been human but now stood nearly 7 feet tall with grotesquely mutated muscles. One arm had transformed into a massive claw. "Tyrant!" Jill shouted, opening fire immediately. The bullets tore into the creature's chest but barely slowed it down. It roared, a sound no human throat could make, and swung its massive claw at Jill. Batman threw the batarang, striking the creature's face. The distraction gave Jill just enough time to dive aside, avoiding the lethal swing. "Aim for the head!" Batman called out, drawing the creature's attention with a smoke pellet that exploded at its feet. The monster turned toward him, red eyes glowing through the smoke. Batman had faced metahumans before, but this thing moved with single-minded deadly purpose. Jill circled behind it, firing methodically at the back of its head. The creature staggered but didn't fall. It spun with surprising speed, backhanding Jill into the wall. Batman seized the moment, launching himself at the monster in a flying kick that would have dropped Killer Croc. The impact felt like hitting concrete. The creature barely moved. It grabbed for Batman, but he'd already rolled away, analyzing its movement patterns. Powerful but predictable. Focused on immediate threats. Limited tactical thinking. "Emma, stay hidden." Batman called out, drawing the monster's attention again. The creature charged him, smashing through furniture. Batman waited until the last moment, then used its momentum against it, sidestepping and helping it crash through the apartment window. The monster fell, roaring, to the street below. Batman turned to Jill, who was picking herself up, wincing. "Are you hurt?" "Just bruised," she managed. "What the hell was that?" "An advanced mutation of whatever caused this outbreak," Batman said, helping her up. Its tissue structure was fundamentally altered, enhanced strength and resilience. "How could you possibly know that from fighting it?" Jill asked. "I've encountered similar cases," Batman replied. "Though never this advanced." "Right. Superhero stuff," Jill said, not entirely mockingly. "We need to move. That thing won't stay down long." Emma emerged from her hiding spot under the bed, trembling. "Is the monster gone?" "For now," Batman said gently. "But we need to leave." They exited the apartment building through the back entrance, making their way through alleyways to avoid the larger streets where zombies congregated. Batman led them, using his training to find the least exposed route. "How much farther to the police station?" Batman asked as they paused behind a convenience store. 6 blocks, Jill replied. "Through the worst of downtown." Batman surveyed their surroundings. The rooftops would be safer. "Great for you maybe," Jill said, gesturing to his grapnel gun. "Not so much for us." Batman pointed to a fire escape on the building opposite. "We can make it work." They climbed to the rooftops, Batman carrying Emma when the gaps between buildings were too wide for her to jump. From their elevated position, they could see the true extent of the catastrophe. Raccoon City was dying. Fires burned unchecked throughout downtown. Zombies filled the streets by the hundreds. Crashed helicopters and emergency vehicles suggested failed military or police interventions. There, Jill pointed to a large stone building several blocks away. "RPD headquarters." Batman studied it through narrowed eyes. The building looked defensible, stone construction, limited entry points, elevated position. If any place in this city offered sanctuary, that would be it. "We'll need to cross that main street," Batman noted, indicating the widest road separating them from the police station. "Main Street," Jill confirmed. "It'll be crawling with them." Emma clutched her teddy bear tighter. "I'm scared." Batman knelt beside her. "It's okay to be scared. Courage isn't about not feeling fear. It's about doing what needs to be done despite being afraid." The girl nodded solemnly. "Like Batman in the comics." "Just like that," he agreed. They continued their rooftop journey until they reached the last building before Main Street. From their vantage point, they could see the problem clearly: the street below teemed with infected. Dozens, perhaps 100, shuffling aimlessly. Crossing at street level would be suicide. Batman scanned the area, formulating a plan. A crashed bus had created a partial barricade across the street. Telephone lines still connected their building to ones across the street. And a police car's lights were still flashing half a block away, drawing many of the infected toward it. "I have an idea," Batman said. "But you'll need to trust me." "Do I have a choice?" Jill asked dryly. "There's always a choice," Batman replied. "But I think this is your best option." He explained his plan. Using his grapnel gun and cape, he could transport Emma across the street first, then return for Jill. They would use the crashed bus as cover to make their final approach to the police station. "What about the noise from your grapnel thing?" Jill asked. "Won't it attract them?" "We'll create a diversion," Batman said, producing a small device from his utility belt. "This is a sonic disruptor. I can program it to emit a high-frequency pulse that should draw them away from our crossing point." Jill nodded, impressed despite herself. "Okay, Batman. Let's do this." Batman activated the disruptor and threw it far down the street, away from their intended path. The device emitted a sound just above human hearing range but irresistible to the infected. Within moments, the horde began shambling toward it. "Now," Batman said, securing Emma to his side. "Hold tight." The grapnel fired with a soft pneumatic hiss, securing to the building across the street. Batman and Emma swung across, his cape spreading to control their descent to the roof. That was like flying. Emma whispered excitedly as Batman set her down safely. "Stay here. Don't move," he instructed, then swung back for Jill. She was ready, her face set with determination. "If you drop me, I swear I'll come back as a zombie just to eat your face." "I won't drop you," Batman promised, securing his arm firmly around her waist. They swung across the street, Batman's cape billowing behind them. For a moment, they soared above the horror below, and Batman felt Jill's grip tighten against him, not from fear, but from the strange exhilaration of flight. Once all three were safely across, they made their way down to street level behind the crashed bus. The police station stood just 100 yards away, its gates closed but intact. "We'll need to move fast," Jill said, checking her weapons. "The sonic thing won't distract them forever." Batman nodded to Emma. "I'll carry her. Stay close to me." They broke from cover, running toward the police station gates. Almost immediately, straggler zombies noticed them, turning with hungry moans. Jill fired precisely, dropping the closest threats with headshots. Batman ran with Emma in his arms, cape flowing behind him. A zombie lunged from a wrecked car, but Batman's kick sent it flying backward without breaking stride. They reached the gates, finding them chained shut from the inside. "Cover me," Batman said, setting Emma down and examining the lock. Jill stood guard, firing only when necessary as zombies approached from all sides. "Whatever you're going to do, do it fast." Batman pulled a small laser-cutting tool from his belt, one of the few functioning gadgets he had left. The chain yielded in seconds. "Inside, now," he ordered, pushing the gates open. They rushed through into the police station courtyard, Batman pulling the gates closed behind them and securing them with a batarang through the handles. It wouldn't hold forever, but it would buy them time. The courtyard was eerily quiet compared to the chaos outside. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, some officers, some civilians. All showed signs of the infection. "Stay alert," Jill warned. "Just because they're down doesn't mean they'll stay that way." They approached the main doors cautiously. Batman went first, pushing them open to reveal the RPD's grand main hall. The building appeared to have once been a museum or art gallery before being converted to police use. Marble floors, ornate pillars, a massive statue in the center. And blood. Blood everywhere. "Hello." Jill called out. "RPD. STRS Officer Valentine." Silence answered her. Let's secure this area first, Batman suggested. Check for survivors. They moved through the main hall carefully, checking bodies for signs of life. None were found. A barricade had been constructed near the reception desk, chairs, tables, filing cabinets piled together. It had been breached. They tried to hold out here, Jill said grimly. Emma stayed close to Batman, her small hand clutching his cape. The terror in her eyes was giving way to shock, the 1,000-yard stare of a child who had seen too much. A noise from the second-floor balcony drew their attention, footsteps, followed by the mechanical click of a shotgun being pumped. Freeze! RPD, a young male voice called out. Batman and Jill looked up to see a police officer in uniform, his face streaked with grime and blood, shotgun aimed at them. Officer Kennedy. Jill called back. Jill Valentine, STRS Alpha Team. The officer's stance relaxed slightly. STRS. Thank God. And, who's your friend supposed to be? I'm Batman, Batman replied simply. The young officer, Kennedy, stared in disbelief. Right. And I'm Superman. Look, if this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke, Jill interrupted. He saved our lives out there. Multiple times. Kennedy lowered his shotgun. Sorry. It's been a rough couple of days. I'm Leon Kennedy. It's my first day on the force. He laughed bitterly. Some first day. We have a child with us, Batman said. Is there somewhere secure we can take her? Leon nodded. I've secured the STRS office upstairs. There's another survivor there, a woman named Claire. She's looking for her brother. Chris? Jill asked sharply. Yeah, Chris Redfield. You know him? He's my partner on Alpha Team, Jill said. He's not in Raccoon City. He went to Europe to investigate Umbrella's headquarters. Leon led them upstairs to the STRS office. Along the way, he explained his situation. He'd arrived for his first day as an RPD officer to find the city already overrun. He'd managed to make it to the station only to find most of his colleagues already dead or turned. The STRS office was a welcome sight, clean, orderly, and fortified. A young woman with a ponytail sat at one of the desks, examining a map. Claire, Leon called. I found survivors. Including STRS member. Claire Redfield looked up, relief washing over her face when she saw Jill. Valentine? You were on my brother's team. Claire Redfield, Jill nodded. Chris has mentioned you. He's not here, Claire. He's safe. Claire sighed with relief. Thank God. I came looking for him after not hearing from him for weeks. Her eyes fell on Batman, widening in surprise. And you are? A friend, Jill answered before Batman could speak. He's helping us survive this nightmare. Batman surveyed the office while the others talked. Communications equipment, weapons lockers, maps, files. A treasure trove of information. He moved to the radio equipment, examining it carefully. The comms are down, Leon said, noticing Batman's interest. We tried calling for help. Nothing works. The equipment is functional, Batman replied. The signal is being jammed. Jill joined him at the communications desk. Umbrella. They're containing the situation by cutting us off. Or the military, Leon suggested. There were rumors of a quarantine before everything went dark. Batman turned his attention to the maps on the wall, detailed layouts of Raccoon City, including underground sections. What's this? He asked, pointing to a large underground complex marked simply U. Umbrella's main lab facility, Jill explained. Where they developed the T-virus. T-virus? The bioweapon that caused all this, she swept her hand toward the window. It reanimates dead cells, creates. She glanced at Emma, who was being comforted by Claire, what we've encountered outside. Batman studied the map intently, memorizing key locations and routes. If I'm going to find a way to stop this, I need to understand what we're dealing with. Is there research data here? In the STRS computer, Jill said, moving to a terminal. We compiled evidence after the mansion incident. Umbrella's experiments, virus samples, mutation data. Batman stood beside her as she accessed the files, absorbing the information rapidly. The T-virus was unlike anything he'd encountered, not merely a pathogen but a complete cellular reorganizer. It maintained basic motor functions while destroying higher brain activity, creating the perfect biological weapon, hosts that would spread the infection while being virtually unstoppable except through complete brain destruction. And there were variants. Enhanced strains. Deliberate mutations. The Tyrant program, Batman read from the screen. Is that what we encountered in the apartment? Yes, Jill confirmed. Umbrella's pride and joy. Human test subjects injected with a modified strain. Stronger, faster, nearly unkillable. Every weapon has a weakness, Batman said. We just need to find it. A crash from somewhere in the building interrupted their research, something heavy breaking through a wall or door. Leon grabbed his shotgun. They're inside. The barricades must have failed. Batman moved to the door, listening. Heavy footsteps. Like the tyrant they'd encountered earlier, but different somehow. Wet, slithering sounds accompanied the steps. That's not a normal zombie, Jill said, her voice tight. Get Emma under the desk, Batman ordered Claire. Jill, Leon, cover the door. The footsteps grew closer, accompanied by a strange clicking noise. Batman had heard something similar in Gotham's sewers, the sound of claws on hard surfaces. What is it? Leon whispered. Liquor, Jill replied grimly. Advanced stage mutation. Extremely dangerous. As if summoned by its name, the creature crawled into view from around a corner. Batman's eyes narrowed at the sight. The thing had once been human, but now its skin was turned inside out, exposing glistening muscles and an oversized brain. Where its eyes should have been, there was only smooth tissue. Its most distinctive feature was a tongue that extended several feet, barbed and lethal. It hunts by sound, Jill whispered. Stay absolutely quiet. The creature paused, its head swiveling as it listened for prey. Its claws dug into the wooden floor, leaving deep gouges. Batman assessed the threat. Blind but with enhanced hearing. Exposed brain suggested a vulnerability. The tongue appeared to be both a weapon and sensory organ. He reached slowly into his utility belt, removing a small pellet. With practiced precision, he threw it far down the hallway, away from their position. The pellet hit the floor with a tiny click. The liquor's head snapped toward the sound. It crawled with horrifying speed in that direction, disappearing around the corner. We need to move, Batman said quietly. That distraction won't last long. Move where? Leon asked. The whole station could be compromised. We need weapons, supplies, and information, Batman said. Then we find a more secure location. The weapons locker is on the first floor, Leon offered. If we can reach it, there's enough firepower to hold off an army. And the science lab in the basement, Jill added. It might have more data on the outbreak. Batman nodded. We split up. Leon, take Claire and Emma to the weapons locker. Jill and I will check the lab. Split up? Claire questioned. In horror movies, that's always when people die. This isn't a movie, Batman replied. And we're not running blindly through the dark. We have objectives, knowledge of the building, and combat experience. Leon hesitated, then nodded. He's right. We'll move faster in smaller groups. Meet back here in 20 minutes. 30, Batman corrected. The lab is deeper in the building. If we're not back by then. We will be, Jill said firmly. Emma looked up at Batman with frightened eyes. You promise you'll come back? Batman knelt to her level. I promise, Emma. Stay with Leon and Claire. Do exactly what they tell you. Can you do that for me? The girl nodded solemnly. Let's move, Batman said, rising to his feet. The group separated at the office door. Batman and Jill headed toward the basement access while Leon led Claire and Emma toward the armory. As they descended the stairs, Jill glanced at Batman. You're good with her. The girl. Children in danger bring out my protective instincts, Batman replied. Is that why you dress like a bat and fight criminals? Batman didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter than usual. Something like that. They reached the lower levels of the police station, moving through darkened corridors where emergency lights cast eerie red glows. The science lab was located in the basement, beyond the holding cells. Stay sharp, Jill whispered. These lower levels would be ideal territory for lickers. Batman nodded, moving silently despite his armored suit. Years of stealth training had made him nearly silent when necessary. They passed holding cells, some empty, some containing the remains of prisoners who had turned and been put down. Batman checked each one carefully, ensuring nothing would surprise them from behind. The science lab doors were locked with an electronic keypad. 4-digit code, Jill said. Standard RPD security. Batman examined the keypad, noting the wear patterns on certain buttons. The most commonly used digits show more wear. That narrows it down. He tried a combination. The lock flashed red. RPD founding date, Jill suggested. 1962. Batman entered 1-9-6-2. The lock flashed green, and the doors slid open. The lab was pristine compared to the chaos upstairs: white walls, clean equipment, computer terminals still running. And unlike the rest of the station, no bodies. Someone cleared this place out, Batman observed. Or they evacuated before the worst hit, Jill suggested, moving to the computer terminals. Let's see what they were working on. Batman examined the lab equipment while Jill accessed the computers. Microscopes, centrifuges, chemical analysis tools, standard police forensics equipment. But one section seemed different, newer, more advanced. Jill, he called. This equipment. It's not standard police issue. Jill joined him, frowning. You're right. This is high-end research gear. Military grade, maybe even beyond that. Umbrella provided it, Batman concluded. They had people inside the RPD. Wouldn't surprise me. Their tentacles reach everywhere in this city. Batman moved to a refrigerated storage unit in the corner. Inside, sealed vials contained colored liquids: blue, green, purple. Samples, he said grimly. Jill's face hardened. They were experimenting right under our noses. In our own police station. Batman carefully removed one vial, examining it through the glass. The blue liquid inside moved strangely, almost as if alive. We should take these, he said. They might contain information about the virus, possibly even antibodies or treatment options. Jill hesitated. Or they could make things worse if they break. We need all the information we can get, Batman insisted. These samples could be the key to understanding what we're dealing with. A metallic crash from somewhere above interrupted their debate, followed by an inhuman roar that shook dust from the ceiling. That's not a liquor, Jill said, drawing her weapon. Something worse. Batman carefully placed the samples in a secure container from his utility belt. Time to go. They retraced their steps through the basement corridors, moving more quickly now. The roars continued above them, accompanied by gunfire, short, controlled bursts. Leon, Jill realized. They're under attack. They reached the stairs, taking them two at a time. As they emerged on the first floor, the situation became clear. Leon and Claire had made it to the weapons locker but were now pinned down by something massive rampaging through the main hall. From their position, Batman could see it clearly, a behemoth even larger than the tyrant they'd encountered earlier. This one wore a trenchcoat stretched over its massive frame. Its right arm had mutated into something resembling a club made of bone and muscle. "Mr. X," Jill whispered. "Another tyrant variant. Even worse than the others." Leon fired his shotgun from behind an overturned desk, the pellets tearing into the monster's chest. It staggered but kept coming, relentless. "Where's Emma?" Batman demanded, scanning the area. "There," Jill pointed to a small figure hiding beneath a desk near the reception area, away from the immediate fight but dangerously exposed. Batman didn't hesitate. "Draw its attention. I'll get the girl." Jill nodded, stepping into the open and firing at the tyrant's head. "Hey, ugly. Remember me?" The creature turned toward her, its expressionless face somehow radiating malice. It stomped toward Jill, giving Batman his opening. He sprinted across the hall, staying low and using debris as cover. Emma saw him coming and reached out with terrified eyes. "Stay down," he whispered as he reached her. "I'm going to get you out of here." The tyrant roared, swinging its massive arm at Jill, who barely dodged the blow. Leon and Claire provided covering fire, but the bullets seemed to only enrage the creature further. Batman assessed the situation in seconds. They couldn't defeat this thing with their current weapons and position. They needed to retreat or find a better tactical advantage. "Everyone toward the east exit," he called out. "Move in sequence. Claire first, then Leon. Jill, cover them. I'll bring Emma." To his surprise, they followed his orders without question, Claire darting toward the indicated door while Leon provided covering fire. Jill maintained the tyrant's attention with precise shots to its face. Batman scooped Emma into his arms. "Close your eyes," he told her. "Don't look." The girl buried her face against his chest as he ran, cape flowing behind them. The tyrant noticed their movement, turning its attention from Jill to Batman and the child. "Now, Jill." Batman called. Jill understood immediately. She fired her remaining rounds into the back of the tyrant's head while Leon unleashed his shotgun at its legs. The combined attack staggered the monster long enough for Batman to reach the east exit where Claire waited. They burst through the door into a side courtyard, Batman still carrying Emma. Leon followed, then Jill, who slammed the door shut behind them. "It won't hold it for long," she warned. "We need distance," Batman said. "Where's the nearest secure location?" Leon gestured to a small guard station across the courtyard. "There. It has reinforced doors and windows. Designed to withstand riots." They ran for the guard station, hearing the door behind them splinter as the tyrant pursued. Leon reached the guard station first, unlocking it with his police key and holding it open for the others. Once inside, Batman set Emma down while Leon and Claire barricaded the door. Jill took up position at a window, watching the tyrant's approach. "It's coming," she announced. "But slowly. It's tracking us, not just charging." "Intelligent," Batman observed. "Learning our patterns." The guard station was small but secure, concrete walls, steel-reinforced doors, bulletproof windows. Radio equipment lined one wall, weapons lockers another. "Did you get to the armory?" Batman asked Leon. The young officer nodded, patting a duffel bag he'd been carrying. "Handguns, shotgun shells, a grenade launcher with acid rounds." "Acid rounds?" Batman's interest was piqued. "Special STRS equipment," Jill explained. "Designed for riot control originally, but they'll do serious damage to infected tissue." Batman turned to the window where the tyrant now stood, watching them with cold, dead eyes. It made no move to attack, simply observing. "It's studying us," Batman said. "Looking for weaknesses." Great, Claire muttered. Just what we needed. A zombie Terminator. Batman moved to the radio equipment, examining it quickly. Like the equipment in the STRS office, it appeared functional but received no signal. The jamming is thorough, he noted. Military grade. So we're on our own, Leon concluded grimly. We have what we need, Batman replied. Weapons, supplies, and information. He held up the container of samples he'd taken from the lab. With these, I might be able to understand the virus better. You a biologist too? Claire asked skeptically. I have experience with chemical and biological agents, Batman said simply. Outside, the tyrant suddenly turned, as if hearing something they couldn't. It stalked away, disappearing around the corner of the main building. That's concerning, Jill said. It found easier prey, Leon suggested grimly. Or it's being directed, Batman countered. These tyrants may have controllers. Umbrella, Jill spat the name like a curse. They're still running experiments even as the city dies. Batman moved to the guard station's terminal, quickly accessing the system. The RPD network is still partially operational. Internal communications only, but it might give us more information. His fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security measures with practiced ease. Jill watched with growing respect. You're good at that, she observed. I've had practice, Batman replied without looking up. The terminal screen flickered, displaying security camera feeds from throughout the station. Most showed only empty corridors or Walking Dead, but one caught Batman's attention, a laboratory area he didn't recognize, where a figure in a white coat worked calmly despite the chaos. Where is that? He asked, pointing to the screen. Jill leaned closer. The secondary lab. Underground level, beneath the parking garage. Restricted access. Someone still working down there, Batman said. In the middle of all this. Umbrella scientist, Jill's voice hardened. Collecting data while people die. Batman studied the grainy image. The scientist was male, blonde, wearing sunglasses despite being indoors. Can you zoom in? He asked. Leon reached over, adjusting the camera controls. The image enlarged, revealing the scientist's face more clearly. Albert Wesker, Jill breathed, her voice a mixture of shock and rage. That son of a bitch is alive. You know him? Batman asked. Former STRS captain, Jill explained, her hands clenching into fists. He betrayed us in the Arkley Mountains, led us into Umbrella's trap. We thought he died there. Clearly, he didn't, Batman observed. And he seems very interested in whatever he's working on. The camera showed Wesker examining specimens in a containment unit, making notes on a tablet. He moved with precise, methodical motions, a man completely at ease despite the apocalypse raging above him. I need to get down there, Batman decided. He has answers we need. We need, Jill corrected him. I'm coming with you. Batman considered arguing but recognized the determination in her eyes. All right. Leon, you and Claire stay here with Emma. Keep her safe, maintain this position. Leon nodded. What about the tyrant? It's focused elsewhere for now, Batman said. But stay vigilant. Use the acid rounds if it returns, aim for the head and chest. Claire moved to Emma, who sat quietly in the corner clutching her teddy bear. We'll protect her. Just find us a way out of this city. Batman nodded, then turned to Jill. Ready? Born ready, she replied, checking her weapons. Let's go pay my former boss a visit. As they prepared to leave the guard station, Batman paused beside Emma. The girl looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much but still held a glimmer of hope. You're coming back, right? She asked softly. I promised I would, Batman replied. And I keep my promises. Emma nodded, then reached into her backpack and pulled out a small comic book. Take this. For luck. Batman accepted the offering, a worn Batman comic book. The irony wasn't lost on him. "I'll bring it back to you," he said. "You better," Emma said with unexpected fierceness. "It's my favorite." With that, Batman and Jill slipped out of the guard station, moving silently across the courtyard toward the parking garage entrance. Behind them, Leon and Claire fortified their position, preparing for whatever might come next. As they disappeared into the darkened garage, Batman couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, not the tyrant or the zombies, but something more calculating. Something human. In this city of the dead, the greatest danger might still come from the living. Chapter 2, The World's Greatest Detective. The parking garage stank of gasoline and death. Batman and Jill moved silently between abandoned police cruisers, their footsteps echoing against concrete walls. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness, a steady rhythm marking their progress deeper into the RPD's underground levels. "Access to the secondary lab is through the maintenance corridor," Jill whispered, pointing toward a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." "Weskier will have it locked down tight." Batman examined the door, reinforced steel with an electronic card reader. "Standard security or biometric?" "Card access with PIN code," Jill replied. "Changed weekly." Batman's mouth tightened beneath his cowl. "Do you know this week's code?" "No, but I know Weskier." Jill's expression darkened. "He's arrogant. Thinks he's smarter than everyone. His codes always follow a pattern based on viral research dates." Batman processed this information. "The original T-virus isolation date." Jill looked at him with newfound respect. "Exactly. September 19, 1978. Batman punched in 1-9-7-8. The reader flashed red. "Too obvious," he muttered. "He'd use a variation. Try the mutation date, when they first recorded the zombie transformation effect," Jill suggested. "Which was?" "October 23, 1981. Batman tried 1-0-2-3. Read again." He thought for a moment, studying the keypad. "The year reversed. 1-9-8-1, the light flashed green. The door unlocked with a soft click. How did you?" The warn button suggested a pattern using 1-9-8-1. Reversing years is a common security variation that feels clever to the user but remains memorable. Batman pushed the door open slowly. "People think they're being random when they're actually following patterns." The maintenance corridor stretched before them, dimly lit by emergency lights. Pipes ran along the ceiling, occasionally releasing bursts of steam that obscured their vision. "Stay close," Batman advised, moving forward with practiced stealth. They proceeded cautiously, passing storage rooms and electrical panels. The further they went, the more the corridor transformed, from utilitarian maintenance area to something more clinical. The walls became white tile. The floor changed to polished linoleum. And biohazard symbols began appearing on doors. "We're entering Umbrella territory," Jill whispered. The police department was built on top of an old museum, which was built on top of an even older facility. Umbrella renovated the underground sections for their research. Hidden in plain sight, Batman noted grimly. A crash echoed from somewhere ahead, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Batman signaled Jill to stop, listening intently. Footsteps, uneven but purposeful. Not zombies. Someone was moving equipment, working methodically despite the chaos above. They continued forward until reaching a set of double doors marked, Biological Research Unit. Through small windows, they could see a fully equipped laboratory. And inside, just as the security cameras had shown, was Albert Weskier. The blond man moved with efficient precision, transferring samples from a storage unit to a secure case. He still wore sunglasses despite the dimly lit lab, and his movements displayed an unnatural fluidity, too perfect, too controlled. "Something's different about him," Batman observed quietly. "His movement patterns aren't fully human." Jill nodded grimly. The mansion facility where we thought he died was conducting viral experiments. He must have infected himself with something. Batman studied their opponent through the window. Enhanced speed and strength were likely, based on his movements. Possibly heightened senses too. A formidable adversary. We need a distraction, Batman decided. I'll circle around through the ventilation system. When I give the signal, confront him from the front. Keep him talking. Talking won't be a problem, Jill said. I've got plenty to say to that traitor. Batman located a ventilation grate near the floor, quickly removing it with tools from his utility belt. 2 minutes. He disappeared into the ventilation shaft with serpentine grace, moving silently through the metal ductwork. Years of navigating Gotham's architectural underbellies had prepared him for exactly this kind of infiltration. The shaft led him above the laboratory, where he could look down through grates and observe Weskier's activities. The scientist was methodically packing viral samples, research notes, and what appeared to be weapon prototypes into a reinforced case. He was evacuating, taking the most valuable research before abandoning the facility. Batman positioned himself directly above Weskier, then tapped his communicator twice, the signal to Jill. On cue, the laboratory doors burst open as Jill entered, weapon raised. Don't move, Weskier. Weskier didn't even look up from his work. Officer Valentine. I was wondering when you'd find your way down here. You're alive, Jill said, keeping her gun trained on him. After everything at the mansion, after betraying your team, you're still slithering around. Weskier finally turned, a cold smile playing across his lips. Survival is what I do best. Something we have in common, it seems. We have nothing in common, Jill spat. You sacrificed your own team to Umbrella's monsters. I prefer to think of it as advancing science through practical field testing. Weskier's voice was eerily calm. Your survival provided valuable data on combat effectiveness against BOWS. Batman watched from above as Weskier subtly shifted his weight, preparing to move. The man's posture suggested enhanced reflexes. A frontal assault would be risky. What are you taking, Weskier? Jill demanded, nodding toward the case. More evidence to destroy. On the contrary. I'm preserving the most valuable research. Weskier closed the case with a decisive click. Umbrella's board of directors has deemed Raccoon City a lost cause. They're preparing to sanitize the area. Sanitize? Jill's face paled. You mean destroy it? There are still survivors. Collateral damage, Weskier said dismissively. The infection can't be allowed to spread beyond the city limits. Batman had heard enough. He silently removed the ventilation grate, positioning himself directly above Weskier. How are they planning to destroy the city? Jill asked, keeping Weskier's attention. That's classified, I'm afraid. Weskier glanced at his watch. And I'm on a rather tight schedule. You're not going anywhere, Jill said firmly, finger tightening on her trigger. Weskier sighed. Always the hero, Jill. But we both know your bullets can't stop me anymore. In one blindingly fast movement, Weskier lunged toward Jill, moving with inhuman speed. But Batman was already dropping from the ceiling, cape spread wide like demon wings. He slammed into Weskier mid-lunge, using his momentum and weight to drive the man to the floor. The impact would have incapacitated an ordinary human, but Weskier rolled with it, springing back to his feet with unnatural agility. Well, Weskier's sunglasses had been knocked askew, revealing unnaturally red irises with cat-like pupils. What do we have here? Umbrella didn't mention any costumed operatives in Raccoon City. Batman positioned himself between Weskier and Jill, analyzing his opponent. The eyes confirmed viral infection. The fluid movements suggested enhanced muscle structure. This wouldn't be like fighting an ordinary human. I'm not with Umbrella, Batman growled. Clearly, Weskier seemed amused. The bat motif is a bit theatrical for corporate bioweapon research. Private military contractor, perhaps? Or some government black ops program? Without warning, Weskier attacked, moving so quickly he seemed to blur. His fist struck Batman's chest with crushing force, sending him skidding backward into a lab table. Batman recovered instantly, years of combat against metahumans allowing him to adjust to Weskier's speed. He blocked the next strike, redirecting the force rather than absorbing it. Interesting, Weskier commented, circling. Enhanced reflexes. Superior training. Your physicality is, almost peak human. Jill fired 3 quick shots, aiming for Weskier's head. The former STRS captain moved with impossible speed, dodging each bullet with minimal movement. Please, Jill, Weskier sighed, as if disappointed. We've been through this. Batman used the distraction to throw 3 batarangs in quick succession. Weskier dodged the first 2 but the third caught his shoulder, drawing blood. First blood to the bat, Weskier said, plucking the batarang from his flesh. The wound was already closing. Impressive weaponry. Custom design. Carbon fiber composite with titanium edge. Something like that, Batman replied, using the exchange to study Weskier's regenerative capabilities. Fast healing, but not instantaneous. Tissue knitted together within seconds rather than milliseconds. That meant sustained damage could overwhelm the regenerative factor. Weskier examined the batarang with scientific curiosity. I could use someone with your resources in my operation. I don't work with mass murderers. A matter of perspective, Weskier shrugged, then moved again with that unnatural speed. This time Batman was ready. He anticipated Weskier's trajectory, throwing down a smoke pellet just as the enhanced human reached him. The laboratory filled with dense smoke, obscuring vision. Batman had fought blind countless times. Weskier, for all his viral enhancements, still relied primarily on sight. In the smoke, Batman struck from changing angles, landing solid blows to Weskier's kidneys, throat, and knee joints, targets that would slow even an enhanced opponent. Weskier growled in frustration, swinging wildly through the smoke. Childish tactics. Says the man wearing sunglasses indoors, Batman replied, his voice seemingly coming from everywhere at once. Jill had circled around during the confusion. She vaulted over a lab table, delivering a flying kick to Weskier's back that sent him stumbling forward, directly into Batman's waiting fist. The combined attack staggered Weskier momentarily. Batman pressed the advantage, delivering a flurry of strikes to vulnerable nerve clusters. Enhanced healing wouldn't prevent pain or neural disruption. But Weskier was adapting, learning Batman's patterns. He caught Batman's next punch, gripping his wrist with crushing force. Enough games, Weskier snarled, his composed facade cracking. He hurled Batman across the laboratory with terrifying strength. Batman crashed into medical equipment, the impact driving the breath from his lungs. Even through his armored suit, the throw had done damage. Ribs bruised, possibly cracked. Weskier turned his attention to Jill, moving toward her with predatory intent. You've been a thorn in Umbrella's side for too long, Valentine. Batman forced himself upright, pulling a specialized device from his utility belt, an electromagnetic pulse emitter designed to disable electronic security systems. Not its intended use, but potentially effective against Weskier's enhanced cellular structure. Jill, get down, he called. As Jill dropped to the floor, Batman activated the device. A wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed through the laboratory, shorting out lights and equipment. Weskier staggered, his enhanced body momentarily disrupted by the pulse. He dropped to one knee, muscles spasming as the virus in his system reacted to the electromagnetic interference. Batman didn't waste the opportunity. He launched himself at Weskier, delivering a precisely targeted strike to the base of the skull, enough force to temporarily paralyze an ordinary human. Weskier collapsed forward, motionless for a crucial moment. Batman quickly bound his wrists with reinforced cable from his utility belt, designed to hold individuals with enhanced strength. "That won't hold him long," Batman said grimly. "His healing factor will overcome the neural disruption within minutes." Jill moved quickly to Weskier's case, opening it to examine the contents. Viral samples. Research notes. And this. She held up what appeared to be a computer drive. "Looks like evacuation protocols and security codes." "Take it all," Batman instructed, searching Weskier's unconscious form. He found key cards, a PDA, and what appeared to be a remote detonator. He was planning to destroy evidence on his way out. Jill pocketed the drive and key cards. "We need to get this information to the others. If they really are planning to destroy Raccoon City, we need evacuation options." Batman nodded, wincing slightly from his injured ribs. "We should." Weskier's body suddenly tensed, then moved with explosive force, snapping the reinforced cables as if they were thread. He rose to his feet, eyes glowing with inhuman rage behind his damaged sunglasses. "I've underestimated you," he said coldly. "A mistake I won't repeat." Before either could react, Weskier slammed his hand down on a console beside him. Alarm klaxons immediately blared throughout the facility. "Emergency protocols activated," an automated voice announced. "Biohazard containment measures initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately." Weskier smiled thinly. "As much as I'd enjoy continuing our little dance, I have a helicopter waiting. Enjoy your time with the cleanup crew." With that, he moved with that unnatural speed toward a rear exit. Batman launched himself in pursuit, but steel security doors slammed down between them, cutting off the chase. "Damn it!" Jill pounded on the sealed door. "He's getting away." "We have bigger problems," Batman said, pointing to security monitors that had activated with the alarm. They showed multiple underground corridors where containment doors were opening, releasing experimental BOWS into the facility. "He's unleashed everything Umbrella was keeping down here." The laboratory's main doors sealed shut as well, locking them inside. Emergency lights bathed the room in pulsing red. Batman moved to a computer terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard as he bypassed security protocols. "I can override the lockdown, but it will take time." "Time we don't have," Jill said grimly, pointing to another monitor showing a nightmarish creature moving through a corridor one level below them. It resembled a human only in the vaguest sense, muscles exposed, oversized claws dragging along the floor, its face a mass of teeth and glistening tissue. "What is that?" Batman asked, continuing his work on the terminal. "Prototype liquor," Jill replied. "More advanced than the ones we saw upstairs. Faster, stronger, and probably smarter too." Batman accessed the facility map, identifying their position and potential escape routes. Most were blocked by security doors or crawling with released BOWS. "There," he pointed to a maintenance shaft. "It connects to the sewers beneath the police station. We can bypass most of the facility and circle back to the others." "The sewers aren't safe either," Jill warned. "The infection spread through the water system. They'll be crawling with infected." "Better than what's coming for us here," Batman nodded toward a monitor showing the advanced liquor entering a corridor just one section away from their position. Batman finally broke through the security lockdown, overriding the laboratory's door controls. The sealed entrance slid open with a hydraulic hiss. "Let's move," he said, gathering the case of viral samples and research Weskier had been preparing. Quickly and quietly. They slipped from the laboratory into the red-lit corridor, moving silently despite the wailing alarms. Batman took point, Jill covering their rear as they navigated toward the maintenance shaft entrance. The facility had transformed from sterile laboratory to nightmare labyrinth. Blood smeared previously pristine walls. Dismembered bodies of researchers lay scattered where they'd been caught in the sudden release of experimental creatures. And always, that distant sound of inhuman movement, scratching, slithering, hunting. They reached the maintenance shaft, a narrow vertical tunnel with ladder rungs embedded in the concrete wall. It descended into darkness, the bottom lost in shadow. "I'll go first," Batman said, securing the case to his back with cable from his utility belt. He descended the ladder silently, Jill following close behind. The shaft seemed to go down forever, passing multiple levels of the hidden umbrella facility. Occasionally they would see a sealed door leading to another section, more laboratories, testing areas, containment units. The scale of Umbrella's underground operation was staggering. "How deep does this go?" Batman asked quietly. "Umbrella built down instead of up," Jill replied. "Less visible from satellite imaging. The deepest levels are hundreds of feet underground." After what seemed an eternity of descent, they reached the bottom. A narrow passage stretched before them, the walls changing from concrete to rough stone. The air grew damp, heavy with the smell of stagnant water and decay. "We've reached the old sewer system," Jill confirmed. "Parts of it date back to the city's founding. Umbrella modified sections for waste disposal from their labs." Batman activated a small light from his cowl, illuminating the passage ahead. The stone floor was covered with several inches of filthy water. Pipes ran along the ceiling, occasionally dripping unknown fluids that sizzled when they hit the water below. "Chemical contamination," Batman observed. "The virus could be concentrated in the water." "Don't touch anything you don't have to," Jill advised, drawing her handgun. "And watch for movement. Infected rats are common down here. Smaller, but just as deadly." They proceeded cautiously through the sewer tunnel, every splash underfoot echoing ominously. Batman's enhanced cowl lenses helped him see in the near darkness, identifying potential threats before they became immediate dangers. After several minutes of careful progress, Batman held up his hand, signaling a stop. "Something's moving ahead." Multiple signatures. Jill strained to see in the darkness. "How many?" "At least 5, Batman replied. "Moving erratically. Infected, most likely. We need an alternate route." Jill studied their surroundings. "There should be maintenance platforms along the main channels." Batman pointed to a rusted ladder leading up to a narrow walkway above the water level. "There." They climbed carefully, the ancient metal groaning under their weight. The elevated walkway offered a better vantage point and kept them above the contaminated water. From their new position, they could see what Batman had detected, a group of infected researchers shambling through the intersection ahead. They wore tattered lab coats, their skin gray and mottled with fungal growths not seen in the surface zombies. "Secondary infection," Jill whispered. "The sewer environment mutated the virus." Batman studied the infected researchers. They moved differently than the surface zombies, more deliberately, almost coordinated. One stopped suddenly, raising its head as if scenting the air. "They've detected us," Batman warned. "Different sensory capabilities than the standard infected." The lead zombie turned in their direction, releasing a gurgling moan that was immediately echoed by the others. As one, they began moving toward the elevated walkway. "We need to move," Batman said. "Now." They raced along the narrow platform, the infected researchers pursuing below. Unlike the shambling surface zombies, these moved with surprising speed, their fungal-covered limbs propelling them through the shallow water. The walkway ended at a junction where several sewer tunnels converged into a larger chamber. A control station stood on a central platform, surrounded by churning water that fed into multiple drainage channels. "Sewer Control Nexus," Jill identified it. "They regulate water flow from here. There should be access to the surface." They leapt from the walkway to the central platform just as the infected researchers reached the end of their pursuit route. The creatures moaned in frustration, unable to cross the gap. Batman examined the control panel, quickly understanding its operations. "I can redirect water flow, possibly clear a path through the western tunnel." "Do it," Jill kept her weapon trained on the frustrated infected. "They'll find another way around eventually." Batman manipulated the controls, opening sluice gates and redirecting the flow of sewage and contaminated water. Alarm indicators flashed as the system recognized the unusual pattern. Warning, unauthorized flow diversion, an automated system announced. Potential flooding in western sectors. Perfect, Batman said grimly. A torrent of water now rushed through the western tunnel, clearing a path forward while creating a barrier behind them that would slow their pursuers. That's our exit, he pointed to where the water flow had revealed a previously submerged maintenance door. It should connect to the old water treatment facility, which has surface access. They crossed carefully to the newly exposed passage, the water flow around them making the footing treacherous. Behind them, the infected researchers had disappeared, likely seeking an alternate route to continue their pursuit. The maintenance door was partially rusted shut. Batman applied his considerable strength, forcing it open with a protesting screech of metal. Beyond lay a narrow service tunnel, dimly lit by ancient emergency lights that still functioned despite years of neglect. This way, Batman led them forward, his senses alert for any new threats. The service tunnel gradually inclined upward, taking them closer to the surface. The air quality improved slightly, though the omnipresent smell of decay never fully dissipated. They had walked perhaps half a mile when Jill suddenly stopped, listening intently. "Do you hear that?" Batman paused, enhancing his cowl's audio receptors. A faint sound reached him, not the moans of infected or the scuttling of mutated creatures, but something more mechanical. Regular. Rhythmic. Machinery, he identified. Still operational. Down here. Jill frowned. Everything should be automated or abandoned. They approached the source of the sound cautiously. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber that had once been a water treatment substation. Ancient filtration equipment lined the walls, most broken or rusted beyond use. But in the center of the room, something modern and clearly operational hummed with power. It was a laboratory setup, compact but sophisticated. Computer equipment, centrifuges, and what appeared to be a portable containment unit sat on hastily assembled tables. Someone had established a research station in this abandoned section of the sewers. "This isn't Umbrella standard issue," Jill observed, examining the equipment. "Too mobile, too streamlined." Batman moved to the computer terminal, quickly bypassing its security. "It's a data collection station. Someone's been monitoring the spread of infection through the water system. Gathering samples, analyzing mutation rates. Umbrella tracking their own outbreak?" "No," Batman scrolled through files on the screen. "This operation is piggybacking in Umbrella's network, but it's not reporting to them. It's sending data elsewhere." A soft click behind them caused both to spin around, weapons ready. A woman stood in a connecting doorway they hadn't noticed, Asian, wearing a red dress that seemed impractically elegant for their surroundings. Most importantly, she had a handgun pointed steadily at them. "I'd appreciate it if you stepped away from my equipment," she said calmly. Jill kept her weapon leveled. "Identify yourself." "I could ask you the same," the woman replied, her gaze moving between Jill's STRS uniform and Batman's cowled figure. "Interesting companions you're keeping these days, Officer Valentine." Batman studied the woman carefully. Professional stance. Steady weapon grip. The confidence of someone extensively trained. Not a scientist, a spy or operative. "You have us at a disadvantage," Batman said. The woman smiled slightly. "Most people find themselves at a disadvantage around me. You can call me Ada. Ada Wong. You're collecting data on the outbreak." Batman nodded toward the equipment. "For whom?" "That's need to know," Ada replied. "And you don't need to know." Jill's eyes narrowed. "Another Umbrella operative?" Ada laughed softly. "Do I look like a corporate drone to you?" "No, Officer Valentine, my employers have their own interest in Umbrella's research. Particularly in how it's performing under field conditions." "You're talking about people dying," Jill said angrily. "This isn't a field test. It's a catastrophe. It's both, Ada replied pragmatically. And my job is to ensure the data doesn't die with the city. Her gaze shifted to the case secured to Batman's back. I see you've been collecting samples of your own. Batman made a subtle shift in posture, ready to move if Ada decided to force the issue with her weapon. Weskier was evacuating with these. Research notes, viral samples, evacuation protocols. Interest flickered in Ada's eyes. Weskier's personal collection would be valuable. We're taking them to help survivors escape, Jill stated firmly. Before Umbrella sanitizes the city. Ada lowered her weapon slightly. So you know about the planned cleansing operation. That gives us a common interest, at least temporarily. I also need to be elsewhere when they decide to sterilize Raccoon City. Batman sensed an opportunity. You have transportation arranged. It wasn't a question, but Ada nodded anyway. Contingency extraction. But I need to complete my data collection first. She gestured to her equipment. Including analyzing the viral variants in deeper sewer systems. We could help each other, Batman suggested. Your extraction could evacuate survivors. Our samples could complete your data set without risking further exposure. Ada considered this, head tilted slightly. A pragmatic suggestion. But why would I trust either of you? Because we all want the same thing right now, Batman replied. To survive. A distant roar interrupted their negotiation, something large and angry, moving through the sewer system toward them. The sound echoed off stone walls, making it difficult to pinpoint the exact direction. We have company, Batman warned. Ada quickly began shutting down her equipment. That would be the welcoming committee Umbrella sends to clean up loose ends. Including independent researchers like myself. What is it? Jill asked tensely. G-Virus prototype, Ada replied, gathering essential data drives. William Birkin's pet project before he became his own experiment. Birkin? Jill's expression showed recognition. The head researcher. Ada nodded grimly. He infected himself when Umbrella's retrieval team tried to steal his research. Now he's hunting through the sewers, killing anything he encounters. And he's evolving with each new victim. The roar came again, closer this time. The chamber's lighting flickered as something massive moved through a nearby tunnel, its weight causing tremors in the ancient infrastructure. We need to move, Batman decided. Now. Ada pointed to a service ladder in the corner. That leads to the water treatment facility. From there, we can access the surface near the clock tower. They moved quickly, Ada gathering the last of her data while Batman and Jill prepared for a potential confrontation. The tremors intensified, dust and small debris falling from the ceiling as the creature approached. Just as they reached the ladder, a massive form burst through the far wall of the chamber, a nightmare of twisted flesh and exposed bone. It had once been human, but now stood nearly 10 feet tall, one arm grotesquely mutated into a giant claw while a cluster of eyes grew from its shoulder. Birkin, Ada confirmed, her professional calm cracking slightly. Stage 3 mutation. The creature fixed its multiple eyes on them, releasing another deafening roar that shook the very foundations of the chamber. It charged with terrifying speed for something so large. Go. Batman ordered, pushing Jill and Ada toward the ladder. I'll hold it off. You can't fight that thing. Jill protested. I don't need to beat it, Batman replied grimly. Just delay it. As the women climbed, Batman faced the charging monstrosity. He threw 3 batarangs in quick succession, targeting the cluster of eyes on its shoulder. The creature howled as the projectile struck true, momentarily staggering its advance. Batman used the brief opportunity to deploy his grapnel gun, firing at a pipe running across the ceiling. As Birkin recovered and charged again, Batman pulled himself upward, swinging above the creature's reaching claw. From his elevated position, Batman analyzed his opponent. The mutation seemed to follow a pattern, asymmetrical growth, focused on offensive capabilities. The eye cluster suggested sensory enhancement but also a vulnerability. The massive frame meant strength but reduced maneuverability in the confined space. Batman released a series of smoke pellets, filling the chamber with dense obscuring fog. The creature roared in frustration, swinging blindly at where Batman had been moments before. Using the cover, Batman dropped behind Birkin, placing 3 small explosive charges from his utility belt on the weakened section of ceiling above the creature. He retreated toward the ladder as Birkin finally sensed his position and turned to pursue. Batman triggered the charges just as the creature lunged for him. The ceiling collapsed, tons of concrete and metal crashing down onto Birkin's mutated form. The creature disappeared beneath the debris, a shriek of rage cut short by the avalanche of rubble. Without waiting to see if Birkin would stay down, Batman ascended the ladder swiftly, emerging into what had once been a water treatment control room. Jill and Ada waited tensely. "That won't hold him long," Ada warned. "The G-Virus provides incredible regenerative capabilities." "Then we keep moving," Batman replied, ignoring the pain from his earlier injuries. His encounter with Weskier and now Birkin had taken a toll, even on his conditioned body. They navigated through the abandoned treatment facility, a maze of rusted machinery and collapsed walkways. Occasionally they would hear distant roars as Birkin excavated himself from the debris, each sound closer than the last. "The surface access is ahead," Ada indicated a heavy security door at the far end of a processing chamber. "It leads to a maintenance yard near the clock tower." "Clock tower?" Batman questioned. "Evacuation point," Jill explained. Emergency protocols designated it for helicopter extraction. If anyone's still trying to get survivors out, they'd coordinate from there. They reached the security door, finding it electronically locked. Ada swiped a key card, but the reader flashed red. "Power's too low for the security system," she muttered. "We need to restore emergency power to this section." Batman examined the surrounding area, quickly locating a backup generator in an adjacent room. "I can get it running. Cover the entrance. Birkin is still coming." He worked efficiently on the generator, rerouting power connections and bypassing damaged circuits. Years of maintaining the complex systems in the Batcave had prepared him for exactly this kind of technical challenge. The generator sputtered to life just as another tremendous crash announced Birkin's approach. The mutated researcher had found them, and he was no longer slowed by the collapsed tunnel. "Power's on," Batman called. "Get the door open." Ada swiped her card again. This time the reader flashed green, and the heavy door began to slide open with agonizing slowness. "It's too slow," Jill said tensely, weapon trained on the corridor where Birkin's roars grew louder. "We won't all make it through in time." Batman moved to the door mechanism, examining it quickly. The emergency override should fully open it at once. He located a manual release lever recessed into the wall panel. "But someone needs to hold it in position." "I'll do it," Jill volunteered immediately. "No," Batman countered. "Get through with Ada and the samples. I'll hold the lever and follow." Before Jill could protest, Batman pulled the emergency override. The door slid fully open with a mechanical groan. "Go now," he ordered. "I'll be right behind you." Ada moved through immediately, practicality overriding any heroic instincts. Jill hesitated, torn between team loyalty and mission necessity. "The samples are more important than any of us," Batman reminded her. "They could save what's left of the city." Reluctantly, Jill followed Ada through the doorway, clutching the case of viral research. A final tremendous crash announced Birkin's arrival. The creature burst through the far wall, even larger than before. The mutation had progressed, a second claw had formed from his other arm, and tentacles now sprouted from his back. The multiple eyes swiveled independently, locating Batman instantly. "Come on then," Batman growled, releasing the override lever. The security door began to close again, too slowly to prevent Birkin's advance. Batman reached into his utility belt, removing his last remaining smoke pellets and his most potent explosive batarang, a device capable of disabling a small armored vehicle. Not enough to kill Birkin, but hopefully enough to slow him. As the creature charged, Batman threw the smoke pellets directly at the eye cluster, temporarily blinding the monster. Birkin roared in pain and rage, swinging wildly with his massive claws. Batman rolled beneath one massive swipe, coming up behind Birkin. He planted the explosive batarang at the base of the creature's spine, then sprinted for the still-closing door. "Batman!" Jill called from the other side, reaching through the narrowing gap. He dived forward just as the explosive detonated. The blast threw him through the closing door, Jill and Ada pulling him clear as the security door finally sealed shut. Behind it, Birkin's howls of rage were muffled but still audible. "That was cutting it close," Ada observed coolly. Batman rose to his feet, ignoring the fresh pain from multiple injuries. "It won't hold him for long. We need to keep moving." They found themselves in a maintenance yard as Ada had promised. Equipment sat abandoned, backhoes, cement mixers, tool sheds. Beyond a chain-link fence, they could see the distinctive shape of Raccoon City's clock tower rising against the night sky. "Almost there," Jill said, pointing to a gate in the fence. They crossed the maintenance yard cautiously, aware that surface areas likely contained standard infected. The clock tower loomed closer, an ornate stone structure that seemed bizarrely untouched amid the surrounding devastation. As they reached the gate, Batman froze, his enhanced senses detecting movement from multiple directions. "We're surrounded." Zombies emerged from behind equipment and maintenance sheds, dozens of them, closing in from all sides. These weren't the sewer variants but standard infected, slower but numerous enough to present a serious threat. "The gate," Jill urged. "If we can get through and secure it behind us." They made a break for it, Batman taking point to clear immediate threats while Jill and Ada provided covering fire. They reached the gate, finding it locked with a heavy chain. Without hesitation, Batman produced his laser-cutting tool again, slicing through the chain in seconds. They pushed through the gate and into the clock tower plaza beyond. The plaza was littered with signs of previous evacuation attempts, flares, emergency supplies, abandoned personal belongings. The grand doors of the clock tower stood partially open, light visible within. "Someone's still here," Jill noted, hope entering her voice. They approached the doors cautiously, weapons ready. Batman pushed them open wider, revealing the tower's interior, a grand circular chamber with a massive clockwork mechanism visible above. Candles and emergency lights provided illumination. And there, in the center of the chamber, stood a familiar figure in a police uniform. "Leon!" Jill called out in surprise. The young officer turned, relief washing over his tired face. "Jill!" "Batman! You made it!" He wasn't alone. Claire Redfield stood nearby, and beside her sat Emma, still clutching her teddy bear. A few other survivors huddled in corners, an injured bus driver, an elderly couple, a middle-aged woman in a business suit. "We thought you might be dead," Claire said, moving forward to embrace Jill. "When the alarm started and those things were released from below." "It was a close call," Jill admitted, returning the embrace. "How did you get here?" Leon gestured to a police radio he carried. "After you left, we picked up a transmission about the clock tower evacuation point. It seemed safer than staying at the station with that tyrant hunting us." Batman moved to Emma, who looked up at him with wide eyes. "You came back," she said simply. "I promised I would," Batman replied, producing her comic book from a protected compartment in his utility belt. "And I brought this back too." Emma took it reverently, then surprised Batman by throwing her arms around him in a fierce hug. For a moment, the grim vigilante froze, then awkwardly returned the embrace. Ada watched the interaction with a raised eyebrow but said nothing. "Who's your friend?" Leon asked, noticing Ada for the first time. "Ada Wong," she introduced herself. "I was conducting research in the city when the outbreak occurred." Leon's eyes lingered on Ada a moment longer than necessary. Well, you picked a hell of a place for fieldwork. So this is the evacuation point, Batman said, examining their surroundings. Is extraction confirmed? Claire shook her head. The last radio transmission mentioned a helicopter coming at dawn. That was hours ago, before the radio went dead. Dawn's only 2 hours away. Jill checked her watch. If they're coming, we need to be ready with a signal. Batman turned to Ada. Your extraction team. When and where? Clock tower roof, also scheduled for dawn, Ada replied. But they're expecting one person, not. She gestured to the assembled survivors, a rescue mission. They'll take us all, Batman said firmly. It wasn't a request. Ada met his gaze coolly. That's not my decision to make. Make it anyway, Batman countered. Their standoff was interrupted by Leon. Look, whatever transportation comes, we need to be ready. The tower bell would make an ideal signal, visible for miles. Good thinking, Jill agreed. The mechanism might still work. Batman examined the ancient clockwork visible above them. The gear system is intact. The striking hammer for the bell appears functional. We'd need to manually release the counterweights. I'll check the mechanism control room, Claire volunteered. There should be an access door near the back of the chamber. I'll go with you, Leon said immediately. As they moved toward the rear of the chamber, Batman turned to Jill. We should secure the perimeter. The commotion may have attracted attention, infected or otherwise. Jill nodded. I'll take the front entrance. You check the sides and rear. Ada cleared her throat. And what would you have me do, Batman? Keep the survivors calm. Prepare them for evacuation. He fixed her with a pointed look. And make that call to ensure your extraction team is prepared for additional passengers. Ada smiled thinly. You're very used to giving orders, aren't you? Only when necessary, Batman replied. Well, in this case, I suppose our interests align, Ada conceded. I'll see what I can do about transport capacity. Batman nodded, then moved to check the tower's side entrances. The ancient building had multiple access points, service doors, windows, even a small delivery entrance that had once accommodated supplies. Each represented a potential vulnerability. He methodically secured each access point, reinforcing doors with available materials and setting makeshift alarms that would warn of intrusion. Throughout his work, his mind processed everything they had learned: Umbrella's experiments, Weskier's betrayal, the planned destruction of Raccoon City, and his own mysterious displacement to this reality. The viral samples and research they'd recovered might provide answers, both to the outbreak and to his own situation. Dimensional displacement was rare but not unprecedented in his experience. If the T-virus research included dimensional properties as Weskier had hinted, it might explain how he had been transported here. As he secured the final side entrance, a familiar sound reached his enhanced hearing: rotors. Helicopter rotors, still distant but approaching. Batman returned to the main chamber quickly. Aircraft approaching. Possibly military. Already? Jill checked her watch again. It's not dawn yet. Not your evacuation, Batman concluded grimly. Someone else. Ada stepped forward, her expression concerned for the first time. We need to see who it is before signaling. Not all helicopters are here for rescue. They ascended the tower's winding stairs quickly, reaching an observation platform just below the massive clock face. Through the ancient stonework windows, they could see the approaching aircraft, a sleek black helicopter with no markings. Umbrella, Jill identified it. Their special forces use those for covert operations. The helicopter circled the tower once, searchlights sweeping the surroundings. A side-mounted gun turret swiveled ominously. They're not here for rescue, Batman confirmed. They're searching for something. Or someone, Ada added quietly. The helicopter's searchlight fixed on one of the tower's stained glass windows, illuminating the colorful patterns from outside. Then, without warning, the gun turret opened fire, shattering the ancient glass in an explosion of color and noise. The survivors below screamed as glass rained down into the main chamber. Batman turned to Jill and Ada. "Get everyone to cover. I'll deal with the helicopter." "With what?" Jill demanded. "Your bat-shaped throwing stars won't bring down an armored helicopter." Batman's expression remained resolute. "I've dealt with worse." Before Jill could protest further, rope-carrying commandos began descending through the broken window, black-clad soldiers wearing gas masks and carrying automatic weapons. They rappelled into the main chamber with practiced efficiency. Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, Ada identified them. Their cleanup crew. Batman analyzed the tactical situation instantly. 6 commandos. Military-grade weapons and armor. Professional stance and movement patterns suggesting extensive training. Dangerous but not invulnerable. "Keep them occupied," Batman instructed. "I'll handle the helicopter first." Without waiting for a response, Batman fired his grapnel gun at the broken window frame, launching himself upward and out into the night air. The helicopter pilot spotted him immediately, turning the aircraft to bring its weapons to bear. Batman released his grapnel at the apex of his swing, soaring toward the helicopter with cape extended. The maneuver was familiar, one he had performed countless times above Gotham's streets, but the helicopter pilot wasn't expecting a human to launch themselves at an aircraft in flight. The gunner opened fire, but Batman's momentum and unexpected trajectory made him a difficult target. He crashed into the helicopter's side, magnetic grips in his gauntlets allowing him to secure a hold on the metal fuselage. Inside, he could see the pilot's shocked expression through the cockpit glass. Batman pulled himself toward the helicopter's tail section, where the most vulnerable components were housed. With precise application of strength, he tore away an access panel, exposing control cables and hydraulic lines. The helicopter lurched as the pilot attempted evasive maneuvers to dislodge his unwelcome passenger. Batman held firm, using his knowledge of aircraft design to identify the critical systems. He pulled a small cutting tool from his belt, severing specific hydraulic lines. Fluid sprayed from the damaged lines, and the helicopter immediately began to lose stability. Warning lights flashed in the cockpit as the pilot struggled with increasingly unresponsive controls. Batman wasn't trying to crash the aircraft, that would endanger everyone in and below it. Instead, he was forcing it to land. With the tail rotor controls compromised, the pilot had no choice but to attempt an emergency landing in the plaza outside the tower. As the helicopter descended rapidly, Batman leapt clear, cape spreading to slow his fall. He landed in a combat roll on the tower's observation platform, watching as the helicopter set down roughly in the plaza, rotors still spinning but unable to generate sufficient lift for continued flight. Inside the tower, gunfire echoed as Jill, Ada, and Leon engaged the commandos who had infiltrated the main chamber. Batman descended swiftly, analyzing the situation as he moved. The survivors had taken cover behind the massive clockwork mechanism in the center of the chamber. Jill and Ada had positioned themselves on opposite sides of the room, using pillars for cover as they exchanged fire with the commandos. Leon protected Claire and the other survivors, firing accurately from his defensive position. Batman entered the fray from above, dropping onto one commando from the shadows. The man crumpled beneath the calculated force of Batman's attack. Before the others could react, Batman threw 2 batarangs, disarming 2 more commandos with precise strikes to their weapon hands. "What the hell is that?" one commando shouted, bringing his weapon to bear on Batman. Batman moved with practiced efficiency, disabling the man with a nerve strike before he could fire. The remaining commandos, realizing their operation had encountered unexpected resistance, began to fall back toward their entry point. "They're retreating to the helicopter," Jill called out, continuing to provide covering fire. "Not for long," Batman replied grimly. "I disabled it." As if on cue, the sound of the helicopter's engine sputtered and died. The commandos exchanged alarmed looks, their coordinated retreat becoming more urgent. Batman pressed the advantage, moving through shadow and light to strike from unexpected angles. Years of combating armed opponents had perfected his technique: disarm, disable, neutralize. Non-lethal but thoroughly effective. Within moments, the remaining commandos were incapacitated. Batman stood amid the fallen soldiers, his cape settling around him like dark wings. Leon emerged from cover, staring in awe. That was. I've never seen anyone move like that. Jill approached one of the unconscious commandos, checking his equipment. Umbrella's best. Taken down like rookies. They're trained to fight conventional opponents and BOWs, Batman observed. Not someone like me. Ada examined the commandos with professional interest. They weren't just here for cleanup. They were searching for something specific. She removed a data pad from one soldier's equipment. Or someone. The device displayed mission parameters: secure and retrieve Dr. William Birkin's research. Secondary objective: eliminate all witnesses. They're after the G-virus samples, Ada concluded. The same ones Weskier was collecting. Batman took the data pad, examining it more closely. There's more. They have orders to secure a dimensional anomaly detected in the RPD building. Dimensional anomaly? Jill frowned. What does that mean? Batman's eyes narrowed beneath his cowl. It means they know I'm not from this reality. And they want to study how I got here. The revelation hung in the air for a moment. Leon and Claire exchanged confused glances. Not from this reality. Leon repeated. Like, what, an alien? No, Batman replied. A dimensional traveler. I suspected it when I arrived, but this confirms it. I'm from a parallel Earth, brought here through some interaction with Umbrella's experiments. That's why Weskier was so interested in you, Jill realized. And why he mentioned interdimensional properties in the virus research. Batman nodded. Umbrella wasn't just developing bioweapons. They were experimenting with dimensional boundaries, perhaps trying to access resources or technology from other realities. Ada's expression remained carefully neutral, but Batman noted her heightened interest. Whatever organization she worked for would find this information valuable. So you're saying you're Batman from another Earth? Claire asked skeptically. Like the comics. The comics exist here too, Batman observed. Interesting. In my reality, I'm not a fictional character. This is insane, Leon muttered. No more insane than walking corpses or men who transform into monsters, Batman countered. Your world has its impossibilities. Mine has different ones. Further discussion was interrupted by a familiar rumble from below, not the helicopter, but something moving inside the building's foundation. The tremor grew stronger, plaster dust falling from the ceiling. Birkin, Ada said grimly. He followed us. As if summoned by his name, the floor at the center of the chamber exploded upward. The mutated form of William Birkin burst into the room, even more transformed than before. His body had grown to massive proportions, the human shape almost entirely lost beneath layers of mutated tissue, claws, and tentacles. Multiple mouths opened across his torso, each screaming with hunger and rage. The survivors screamed, retreating toward the tower stairs. Leon positioned himself between them and the monster, firing his shotgun repeatedly into Birkin's mass. The creature barely noticed the impacts. The bell tower. Claire called out. We can trap it on this level. Batman assessed their options quickly. Jill, Ada, get the survivors to the roof. Leon, Claire, provide covering fire. I'll distract Birkin. Without waiting for agreement, Batman launched himself at the mutated creature, throwing his remaining batarangs at the multiple eye clusters that had developed across Birkin's form. The precise strikes caused the monster to roar in pain, focusing its rage on Batman. Go. Now. Batman ordered as he dodged massive claws and lashing tentacles. The survivors ran for the spiral staircase leading to the upper levels, Jill and Ada guiding them while Leon and Claire provided cover. Batman engaged in a deadly dance with Birkin, using the creature's size against it in the confined space. Each massive swing destroyed ancient stonework but missed Batman's agile form. Batman led Birkin away from the stairs, ensuring the survivors had time to ascend. The creature's attacks grew more frenzied as Batman continued to target its eyes and other sensitive areas, exploiting the mutation's vulnerabilities. As the last survivor disappeared up the staircase, Batman made his move toward escape. He fired his grapnel gun at the upper balcony, preparing to ascend rapidly. But Birkin had learned. A tentacle lashed out, wrapping around Batman's ankle as he began to rise. With tremendous strength, the creature yanked him back down, slamming him into the stone floor with bone-crushing force. Batman's armor absorbed much of the impact, but pain still exploded through his body. Ribs cracked. His left shoulder dislocated. The cowl's electronics flickered from the damage. Birkin loomed over him, massive claws raised for a killing blow. Batman rolled aside just as the claws crashed into the floor where he had been, shattering the ancient stone. He managed to get to his feet, ignoring the screaming pain from his injuries. Batman! Leon called from the staircase, raising his shotgun again. Stay back! Batman ordered. Get to the roof. Birkin turned at the sound of Leon's voice, momentarily distracted. Batman used the opportunity to throw his last remaining offensive tool, an electric charge designed to incapacitate even Killer Croc. The device struck Birkin's main body mass, discharging its full power into the mutated flesh. The creature convulsed as electricity coursed through it, momentarily paralyzed by the shock. Batman didn't waste the opportunity. He sprinted for the staircase, moving with determined speed despite his injuries. Leon provided covering fire as Batman reached the stairs, then both men ascended rapidly, Birkin's roars of rage following them. The creature began to pursue, its massive bulk demolishing the narrow spiral staircase as it climbed. The stairs won't hold his weight much longer, Batman observed as they climbed. Good, Leon replied grimly. Maybe he'll fall and buy us some time. They reached the bell chamber level, where the massive bronze bell hung silently in its ancient frame. The clockwork mechanism stood ready to be activated, Claire working frantically at the control panel. I've almost got it, she called. The striking mechanism still works. Beyond the bell chamber, another staircase led to the roof access where the other survivors waited. Batman could hear Birkin smashing his way up the disintegrating spiral staircase below. We need to slow him down, Batman decided. The bell. Understanding dawned on Leon's face. The vibrations. If we ring it while he's close. Batman nodded. Sound affects the mutations. We saw it with the lickers. Birkin's evolved form might be even more sensitive. Claire stepped back from the control panel. It's ready. Just pull that lever when you want it to strike. Get to the roof, Batman instructed. I'll activate it when Birkin reaches this level. You're injured, Leon protested. Let me stay. Go, Batman's tone left no room for argument. Protect the others. Reluctantly, Leon and Claire retreated up the final staircase to the roof. Batman positioned himself near the bell mechanism, listening to Birkin's approach. The creature was close now, the staircase groaning under its enormous weight. Batman calculated the timing precisely. As Birkin's mutated form appeared at the chamber entrance, Batman pulled the lever. Ancient gears turned, the striking hammer drew back, and then swung forward with tremendous force. The bell rang out, a deafening, bone-shaking toll that filled the chamber with sound and vibration. The effect on Birkin was immediate and devastating. The creature screamed in agony, its multiple mouths and sensory organs overwhelmed by the sound waves. It thrashed wildly, tentacles lashing out at nothing as it tried to escape the punishing noise. Batman didn't wait to see more. He ran for the roof access, each step sending pain through his injured body. Behind him, the bell continued to toll, the automated mechanism striking again and again, keeping Birkin disoriented and in pain. He emerged onto the clock tower roof where the survivors huddled together. The night sky was beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. In the distance, the sound of helicopter rotors could be heard, different from Umbrella's aircraft, more substantial. Military transport, Jill identified it. That's our evacuation. Batman moved to the edge of the roof, scanning the approaching aircraft. It was indeed a military helicopter, large enough to carry all the survivors. But something about its approach pattern concerned him. It's not heading directly for us, he observed. It's circling the city perimeter. Ada stepped forward, a small transmitter in her hand. Allow me. She activated the device, which emitted a pulsing signal. The helicopter immediately altered course, turning toward the clock tower. Your extraction team? Batman questioned. Ada nodded. I told you our interests align temporarily. They'll transport everyone. The helicopter approached, hovering near the clock tower roof. As it drew closer, Batman could see it was a private military contractor aircraft, not official military. The side door slid open, a man in tactical gear gesturing urgently for them to board. Ladies and children first, Leon called over the rotor noise, helping Emma and the elderly couple toward the helicopter. The aircraft maintained a steady hover as survivors began boarding. Batman remained vigilant, scanning for any signs of pursuit. Below, the bell had finally stopped tolling. Birkin would recover soon. Jill supervised the evacuation, counting heads as each survivor boarded. We're almost there. Just a few more. Batman moved to Ada, who waited calmly for her turn to board. Your employers, he said quietly. They're interested in the dimensional properties of the virus. It wasn't a question, but Ada answered anyway. Among other things. Different organizations have different priorities regarding Umbrella's research. The samples we recovered, Batman continued. They could be dangerous in the wrong hands. All power is dangerous in the wrong hands, Ada replied. The question is whether you trust me to ensure they reach the right ones. Before Batman could respond, a tremendous crash came from the bell chamber below. Birkin had recovered and was smashing through to the roof. Final boarding call, Ada said with forced lightness, moving toward the helicopter where only Batman, Jill, and Leon remained on the roof. The roof access door exploded outward as Birkin's mutated form burst onto the roof. The creature had evolved yet again, now more alien than human, its mass pulsing with cancerous growth and newly formed limbs. Go. Batman ordered Jill and Leon. Get on the helicopter. Leon ran for the aircraft, but Jill hesitated. What about you? I'll be right behind you, Batman promised, positioning himself between Birkin and the helicopter. Jill reluctantly joined Leon at the helicopter, both climbing aboard. Only Batman remained on the roof with the advancing monster. Birkin charged, tentacles and claws extended to their full reach. Batman stood his ground, calculating the precise moment to move. As Birkin closed the distance, Batman sidestepped the initial attack, then used his grapnel gun to swing around behind the creature. The helicopter hovered just beyond the roof edge, its crew anxiously watching the confrontation. Batman knew he couldn't defeat Birkin, not in his injured state, not without his full arsenal. But he could outsmart it. He led Birkin on a deadly chase around the roof, keeping the creature's attention fixed on him rather than the escaping helicopter. Each movement sent pain through his injured body, but Batman pushed through it with the discipline of a man who had trained himself to ignore physical limitations. As Birkin charged again, Batman timed his dodge perfectly, allowing the creature's momentum to carry it dangerously close to the roof edge. The ancient stonework, already damaged from their battle, began to crumble beneath Birkin's massive weight. Batman seized the opportunity, firing his grapnel at the helicopter just as Birkin lunged for him one final time. The grapnel line pulled him away from the roof as Birkin's attack missed its target and carried the creature over the edge. Tentacles grasped desperately for purchase, finding none as the mutated form of William Birkin plummeted toward the plaza far below. The helicopter crew helped pull Batman aboard as he swung toward them. The door slid shut as soon as he was inside, the aircraft immediately gaining altitude and speed. Inside the crowded helicopter, survivors pressed against each other for space. Emma rushed to Batman, wrapping her arms around his waist despite his injured state. Leon and Claire looked at him with newfound respect. Jill moved to help him to a seat, concern evident in her expression. "You're hurt," she observed, noting how he favored his left side. "I'll heal," Batman replied simply, carefully setting Emma aside and moving to the helicopter's window. As they gained altitude, the full extent of Raccoon City's devastation became visible. Fires burned unchecked throughout the urban landscape. Hordes of infected wandered the streets. And in the distance, what appeared to be military aircraft circled ominously. "They're going to destroy it all," Jill said quietly, joining Batman at the window. "Everything and everyone left behind." "It's already lost," Batman replied, though the admission clearly pained him. "Containment is the priority now." Ada approached, carrying the case of samples they had recovered from Weskier. "These may help prevent future outbreaks." "A small victory, perhaps." Batman studied her carefully. "You'll ensure they're used properly?" "I'll ensure they reach people who understand their value," Ada replied carefully. "Both scientific and historical." It wasn't the guarantee Batman wanted, but he recognized the pragmatic truth in her words. In this reality, he lacked his usual resources and connections. Choices were limited. The helicopter banked, turning away from the doomed city toward the mountains beyond. Dawn was breaking fully now, golden light spilling across the landscape in stark contrast to the horror they were leaving behind. "What happens now?" Leon asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "We survive," Batman answered simply. "We testify. We ensure Umbrella faces consequences for what they've done." "And you?" Jill asked quietly. "If you're really from another reality, what will you do?" Batman turned from the window, his expression resolute beneath the cowl. "Find a way home. The research Weskier was conducting suggests the dimensional breach wasn't random. With the right equipment, it might be reversible." "You'd need access to similar technology," Ada observed. "Technology few organizations possess." "I'll find it," Batman stated with quiet certainty. The helicopter continued its journey away from Raccoon City, carrying its cargo of survivors toward an uncertain future. Behind them, military jets appeared on the horizon, circling what remained of the doomed city. The final sanitization was beginning. Batman watched the distant aircraft, his thoughts turning to Gotham, to Alfred, Dick, Barbara, and the others who might be searching for him. He would find a way back. He always did. But first, he had a responsibility to these people who had fought alongside him, to ensure their safety and to help bring down the corporation whose greed and arrogance had destroyed an entire city. As the helicopter flew toward the rising sun, Batman allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Different world, different enemies, but the same fundamental fight, against those who would sacrifice innocent lives for power and profit. Some battles transcended dimensions. Chapter 3, Escape from Raccoon. The helicopter trembled as a distant explosion illuminated the horizon. Batman watched through the viewport as a mushroom cloud bloomed over what had been Raccoon City. The government's sanitization was complete, a tactical nuclear device erasing all evidence of Umbrella's crimes and the thousands of victims left behind. "Jesus Christ," Leon whispered, shielding Emma's eyes from the sight. "They actually did it." Jill's face hardened into a mask of rage. "All those people. Gone. Just to cover Umbrella's tracks." "Not cover," Batman corrected, his voice low and precise. "Contain. The infection couldn't be allowed to spread. So we just accept it?" Claire demanded. A whole city wiped off the map. We don't accept it. Batman turned from the window, his eyes scanning the survivors crowded in the helicopter's cargo bay. We make sure it wasn't for nothing. We make Umbrella pay. The helicopter banked sharply, heading toward the mountains. Batman moved to the cockpit, where the pilot and co-pilot maintained radio silence, their expressions grim. "Where are we going?" Batman demanded. The pilot, a hard-faced mercenary type, glanced up. "Secure facility in the mountains. Our employers want to debrief the survivors." "Your employers being?" Batman pressed. "Above my pay grade," the pilot replied tersely. "I just fly where they tell me." Batman's eyes narrowed beneath the cowl. He turned to find Ada standing behind him, her expression unreadable as always. "Your extraction team," Batman said quietly. "Who do they work for?" "A rival pharmaceutical company," Ada admitted. "One with particular interest in Umbrella's research, including the dimensional properties you personally demonstrate." Batman's hand moved imperceptibly closer to his utility belt. "I won't become anyone's research project." "No one's suggesting that," Ada's voice remained calm. "But surely you understand your value. A visitor from another dimension. The scientific implications alone are irrelevant," Batman cut her off. "These people need medical attention and protection from Umbrella. Not scientific curiosity." Ada sighed. "Always the hero. Fine. The facility has medical capabilities. Everyone will receive treatment. After that, my employers would appreciate a conversation. Nothing more." Batman wasn't satisfied, but the immediate needs of the survivors took priority. He returned to the cargo bay, where Jill was treating Leon's wounds with a first aid kit found aboard. "How are the others?" Batman asked. "Stable," Jill replied without looking up from bandaging Leon's arm. "The elderly couple is in shock. The businessman has a broken ankle. Emma is physically fine but hasn't spoken since we took off." Batman knelt beside the little girl, who sat clutching her teddy bear, eyes vacant. "Emma," he said softly, gentler than his usual growl. "You're safe now." The girl's eyes focused slowly, finding Batman's cowled face. "They're gone, aren't they? My mom and grandpa?" Batman had never lied to children. "Yes." Emma nodded, a child processing grief too enormous to express. "I thought so." She hugged her bear tighter. "Mr. Snuggles knew too. He's sad." Batman placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay to be sad. And scared. And angry. All of it. Are you ever scared?" Emma asked, her small voice barely audible over the helicopter's engines. "Yes," Batman answered simply. "Fear keeps us alive. But we don't let it control us." The helicopter began descending, the mountain facility coming into view, a modern complex built into the mountainside, disguised as a research station with minimal external structures visible. Perfect for clandestine operations. "That's not a government building," Leon observed, joining Batman at the window. "No," Batman agreed. "Private sector. Pharmaceutical or biotech, based on the layout. Out of Umbrella's frying pan, into someone else's fire." Jill asked grimly. "We don't have many options," Batman replied. "But stay alert. I don't trust our hosts." The helicopter landed on a helipad cut into the mountainside. Armed security personnel approached as the rotors slowed, professional, well-equipped, but not military. Private contractors. The side door slid open, and a man in a crisp suit approached, flanked by medical personnel. "Welcome to Alpine Research Center. I'm Dr. Wilson, head of operations. We've prepared medical facilities for the injured and accommodations for everyone." Batman stepped forward, deliberately imposing. "These people need treatment and protection. Nothing else." Dr. Wilson's expression remained professionally pleasant. Of course. Your safety is our primary concern. The survivors were escorted from the helicopter toward the facility entrance, a large airlock-style door built into the mountainside. Batman noted security cameras, motion sensors, and disguised weapon emplacements. Whoever operated this facility took security seriously. Inside, the facility opened into a brightly lit reception area that resembled a high-end medical center. Staff in lab coats and scrubs moved efficiently, guiding survivors toward treatment rooms. Batman watched carefully, noting exits, security protocols, and the subtle but omnipresent armed guards. "Mr. Batman," Dr. Wilson approached again. "We've prepared a special medical suite for you. Your injuries appear significant." "I'm fine," Batman replied flatly. "I stay with them." Wilson's smile tightened slightly. "As you wish. Though I must insist you allow our doctors to examine you at some point. Your physiology is of great interest to, my physiology isn't your concern," Batman cut him off. "Focus on treating the civilians." Wilson nodded stiffly and moved away. Batman turned to find Ada watching their exchange with amusement. "You don't play well with others, do you?" she observed. "Depends on the others," Batman replied. "Where did your employers get the umbrella research data? The kind that helped them identify me as an anomaly?" Ada's smile faltered slightly. "Corporate espionage is a competitive field. Information flows to those willing to pay for it. Weskier," Batman concluded. "He's feeding data to multiple buyers. Playing corporations against each other." "Very good, Detective," Ada conceded. "Albert does keep his options open. It's why he survived this long." The admission confirmed Batman's suspicions. Weskier was alive, active, and connected to whoever ran this facility. The game was bigger and more complex than a simple corporate rivalry. Batman moved through the treatment area, checking on each survivor. Claire and Leon sat together, receiving minor wound treatment. Jill stood vigilant by the elderly couple as doctors examined them. Emma had been taken to a pediatric area with child psychologists. After ensuring everyone was being properly treated, Batman found a quiet corner and began a methodical inspection of his own injuries. 3 cracked ribs. Dislocated shoulder, now reset but inflamed. Multiple lacerations and contusions. Nothing life-threatening, but debilitating for a normal human. Batman was not normal. Years of training with the world's foremost martial arts masters had taught him techniques to manage pain, accelerate healing, and function despite injuries that would incapacitate others. He began a series of controlled breathing exercises, focusing his mind to control the pain. "That looks like Tibetan pain suppression," Jill observed, approaching quietly. "Military taught us something similar, but not that effective." Batman opened his eyes. "It helps. How are the others?" "Stable. Getting food and rest." Jill leaned against the wall beside him. "This place gives me the creeps. Too clean. Too perfect." "Agreed. They're hiding something." Batman rose smoothly to his feet, masking the pain from his injuries. "We need more information." Already on it, Jill produced a security badge she'd somehow acquired. "Swiped this from a doctor. Gets us into the research levels below." Batman's mouth twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Resourceful. I learn from the best," Jill replied. "Ready for some detective work, Batman?" They moved casually through the medical floor, Jill's stolen badge allowing them through the first security checkpoint. Beyond it, the facility's true nature emerged: pristine laboratories, advanced research equipment, and secured containment units replaced the medical center facade. "Bioweapon research," Batman observed, examining a laboratory through reinforced glass. Scientists worked with samples in negative pressure chambers, the specimens distinctly viral in nature. "Just like Umbrella," Jill agreed grimly. "Different logo, same evil." They continued deeper, avoiding security cameras with practiced ease. Batman accessed a computer terminal, his fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard as he bypassed security protocols. "They've been studying the T-virus for years," Batman said, scanning through files. "Including its dimensional properties. Umbrella's wasn't the only research program." "Dimensional properties?" Jill frowned. "Like what brought you here?" "Exactly." Batman brought up technical schematics on the screen. "The virus affects not just biological tissue but reality itself at a quantum level. Umbrella discovered this accidentally during early trials. And these people knew about it. They've been funding parallel research," Batman continued scanning files. "Working to weaponize the dimensional properties while Umbrella focused on biological applications." "Why? What's the strategic value of punching holes in reality?" "Resources. Technology. Access to parallel Earths with different developmental paths." Batman's expression darkened. "Imagine finding a world where cancer was cured, or unlimited energy discovered, and bringing that technology back." "Sounds almost noble," Jill observed. "Nothing noble about their methods," Batman replied, bringing up another file. "They've been conducting human trials. Forcing dimensional transitions without proper protection or mapping. Images appeared on screen, failed test subjects, horrifically deformed by partial dimensional transitions. Bodies fused with matter from other realities. Consciousness split between dimensions." "My God," Jill whispered. "And they want to study you because you made it through intact?" "I suspect my arrival was an accident," Batman said. "A side effect of their experiments intersecting with Umbrella's work in Raccoon City. The dimensional barrier was already weakened there. A noise from the corridor alerted them to approaching security." Batman quickly closed the files and disconnected from the terminal. They slipped into an adjacent storage room just as guards passed by. "We need to find their primary research lab," Batman whispered. "If they've been working on dimensional technology, they might have a way to send me back." "And if they do?" Jill asked, her voice carefully neutral. "You'd leave?" Batman met her gaze. "I have responsibilities in my world. People who depend on me." "Right. Of course." Jill checked the corridor. "Coast is clear. Let's move." They continued their infiltration, descending to the lowest levels of the facility. Security increased with each level, more guards, more cameras, more biometric locks. Jill's stolen badge combined with Batman's security bypassing techniques got them through. Finally, they reached a heavily secured door marked, Project Threshold. Batman examined the security system, retinal scanner, keypad, and voice recognition. "We can't bypass this one easily," Batman observed. "Maybe we don't have to," Jill nodded down the corridor where Dr. Wilson approached, accompanied by 2 security guards. Batman pulled Jill into a recessed doorway, the shadows concealing them as Wilson passed. The doctor placed his eye against the scanner, entered a code, and spoke clearly, "Wilson, Project Director. Authorization Omega-37." The massive door slid open. Batman and Jill waited until Wilson and his guards entered, then slipped in behind them before the door closed. They found themselves on an observation platform overlooking an enormous laboratory. In its center stood a massive ring-shaped device, glowing with blue energy, unmistakably a dimensional portal apparatus. Scientists monitored equipment surrounding it while security personnel maintained a perimeter. "Looks like we found their primary research," Jill whispered. Batman studied the technology, his mind cataloging similarities to dimensional transportation devices he'd encountered before. This one appeared more primitive than Justice League technology but functional. Below, Wilson addressed his team. "Prepare for test activation. The dimensional coordinates from Raccoon City have been loaded. We need to verify the connection before proceeding with retrieval operations." "Retrieval?" Jill frowned. "What are they retrieving?" "Technology. Samples. Information." Batman's eyes narrowed. They're scavenging from my reality. The portal device hummed with increasing power, the blue energy intensifying. Technicians called out readings as the machine approached activation threshold. Portal stability at 87%, a scientist announced. Dimensional lock established. The center of the ring rippled like water, then opened into a swirling vortex. Through it, Batman could see a distorted image, dark, Gothic architecture. Familiar architecture. That's Gotham, he said quietly. They've opened a portal to my city. Dimensional lock confirmed, the scientist called. Telemetry receiving. Atmospheric composition matches target parameters. Wilson stepped forward eagerly. Excellent. Prepare the retrieval drone for deployment. Batman had seen enough. He turned to Jill. I need to stop them. This kind of unregulated dimensional travel is dangerous for both worlds. What's the plan? Jill asked. Before Batman could answer, a new voice spoke from behind them. The plan, I believe, is surrender. They turned to find Ada Wong pointing a sleek pistol at them, her expression cool and professional. Ada, Jill growled. Should have known you were working with these people. I work with whoever advances my interests, Ada replied smoothly. Today, that's Alpine research. Tomorrow? Who knows? Batman analyzed the situation. Ada was too far for him to disarm before she could fire. The observation platform offered little cover. Direct confrontation was not the optimal approach. You know this technology is unstable, Batman said evenly. Dimensional breaches without proper containment protocols risk both worlds. Such concern for people you'll never meet, Ada mocked. My employers understand the risks. They consider them acceptable. And Weskier? Batman pressed. How does he factor into this operation? A flicker of surprise crossed Ada's face before she controlled it. Albert has his own agenda, as always. Which includes selling the same information to multiple buyers, Batman continued. Playing corporations against each other for his benefit. Enough talk, Ada gestured with her gun. Dr. Wilson would like to speak with you properly, Batman. Your unique transition between dimensions makes you invaluable to his research. Below, the portal's energy fluctuated suddenly. Alarms sounded as technicians scrambled to address the instability. Portal fluctuation detected, a scientist called out. Unknown energy signature approaching from the other side. Wilson rushed to a monitoring station. Lock it down. Nothing comes through until we identify it. But it was too late. The portal's blue energy turned crimson, expanding beyond the ring's containment field. Scientists backed away as the dimensional tear grew larger. And through it stepped Albert Weskier. The former STRS captain emerged from the crimson portal looking exactly as he had in Raccoon City, sunglasses, black tactical clothing, and that inhuman grace. But now he carried a metal briefcase and wore a satisfied smirk. Gentlemen, Weskier announced to the stunned room. Thank you for opening the door. You've saved me considerable effort. Weskier. Wilson spluttered. How did you piggyback on your dimensional frequency? Weskier finished for him. Quite simple when one has access to your research parameters. You really should secure your networks better. Batman used the distraction to move, striking Ada's arm with precise force. The gun clattered to the floor as Batman grabbed her wrist in an immobilizing hold. What's Weskier planning? Batman demanded. Ada winced but maintained her composure. I don't know. This wasn't part of my briefing. Below, chaos erupted as Weskier moved through the laboratory with superhuman speed, disabling security guards with brutal efficiency. Scientists fled in panic as he approached the portal controls. Stop him. Wilson ordered the remaining guards. He can't be allowed to control the portal. Guards opened fire, but Weskier moved like liquid lightning between bullets, reaching the main control console within seconds. He placed his briefcase beside it and began typing commands. "I'm afraid I'm making a slight adjustment to your experimental parameters," Weskier called out with mocking civility. "Your dimensional bridge is impressive, but limited in scope. I intend to expand it considerably." Batman released Ada and vaulted over the observation railing, dropping to the laboratory floor below. He landed in a combat role despite his injuries, immediately moving toward Weskier. Weskier noticed his approach and smiled. "Ah, the Batman. I was hoping you'd be here. A witness from both worlds seems appropriate for what comes next." "Whatever you're planning, Weskier, it stops now," Batman growled, advancing cautiously. "Always so dramatic," Weskier chuckled, continuing to work at the console. "I'm simply fulfilling the potential of this technology. Why settle for a tiny portal to one dimension when we can create a permanent merger?" The implication hit Batman with chilling clarity. "You're trying to fuse the dimensions." "The first of many," Weskier confirmed. "Imagine it, Batman, a world with Gotham's advanced technology and my world's biological evolution potential. The ultimate proving ground for the next stage of human development." "You'd destroy both worlds in the process," Batman countered. "Dimensional merging creates catastrophic reality conflicts. Billions would die." "The weak, certainly," Weskier agreed casually. "I consider it necessary pruning." Batman launched himself at Weskier, closing the distance with explosive speed. But Weskier was ready, meeting Batman's attack with his virus-enhanced reflexes. They exchanged blows at a pace barely visible to normal human eyes, Batman's perfectly honed fighting skills against Weskier's superhuman abilities. Each landed punishing strikes, Batman fighting through his existing injuries with sheer willpower. Weskier seemed to enjoy the exchange, testing himself against Batman's legendary combat prowess. "Remarkable," Weskier commented between lightning-fast attacks. "No viral enhancement, yet you nearly match me. Your world must breed exceptional specimens." Batman didn't waste breath on replies, focusing entirely on the fight while analyzing the portal controls behind Weskier. The dimensional breach was expanding, the crimson energy crawling outward like blood in water. Jill joined the fight, firing at Weskier from the observation platform. The bullets he couldn't dodge struck his body but caused minimal damage, his viral healing factor closing wounds almost instantly. "Valentine," Weskier acknowledged without looking up. "Still playing the hero? You should know better by now." Weskier suddenly accelerated, moving with blinding speed to grab Batman by the throat and slam him against the portal control console. "I admit, I've been curious about your limits, Batman. Your pain threshold. Your breaking point." Batman drove a knee into Weskier's midsection, following with an elbow strike to the throat that would have crushed a normal human's larynx. Weskier staggered back, momentarily surprised by the effectiveness of the attack. "You talk too much," Batman growled, pressing his advantage with a flurry of precision strikes targeting nerve clusters and weak points even Weskier's enhanced body possessed. Weskier recovered quickly, counterattacking with brutal efficiency. Their combat destroyed equipment and sent remaining personnel fleeing for safety. Through it all, the dimensional portal continued expanding, now nearly twice its original size. From the observation level, Jill had made her way to a control station. "Batman. The portal's becoming unstable. It's drawing power from both dimensions." Batman glanced at the readings as he dodged one of Weskier's attacks. The portal was indeed drawing massive energy from both realities, creating a cascading power signature that would eventually tear a permanent hole between dimensions. "We need to reverse the polarity." Batman called back, evading another lightning-fast strike from Weskier. "Invert the dimensional frequency to force a collapse." "Speak English," Jill shouted, examining the unfamiliar controls. "The main power coupling." Batman pointed while blocking Weskier's kick. "Reverse the flow direction." Weskier laughed. "She'll destroy you both if she tries. The energy backflow will disintegrate anything organic within 20 meters. "He's lying," Batman countered, though he couldn't be certain. Dimensional physics varied between realities. The risk was real. Jill hesitated, hands hovering over the controls. If he's right, then I'll handle it, a new voice announced. Leon Kennedy stood in the laboratory entrance, supporting himself against the doorframe. Despite his injuries, he held Weskier's forgotten briefcase. Looking for this, Weskier? Leon called, holding up the case. Found your little insurance policy. Quite the self-destruct mechanism. Weskier's composure cracked slightly. Put that down, boy. You have no idea what you're holding. Oh, I think I do. Leon opened the case to reveal complex explosives wired to viral samples. Batman was right about you having a scorched earth policy. This would have spread the virus through this facility while destroying the evidence. The distraction gave Batman the opening he needed. He drove a powerful strike into Weskier's solar plexus, following with a sweep that took the enhanced human off his feet. Before Weskier could recover, Batman was on him, applying a nerve hold that temporarily paralyzed even his virus-enhanced nervous system. Jill! Now! Batman shouted. Jill flipped the power coupling, reversing the energy flow. The portal immediately changed color, shifting from crimson back to blue. The expanding breach began contracting, energy flowing back toward the central ring. No! Weskier struggled against Batman's hold, his enhanced strength beginning to break free. You don't understand what you're doing. Saving two worlds, Batman replied grimly, maintaining the debilitating pressure points despite Weskier's resistance. The portal contracted rapidly, dimensional energy collapsing inward. Warning alarms blared throughout the facility as power surged through overloading systems. It's going to blow. Jill called out. The whole system's overloading. Batman made an instant decision. He drove a final paralyzing strike into Weskier's nervous system, temporarily disabling him completely, then raced to the portal controls. Everyone out, he ordered. Clear the facility. What about you? Leon demanded, still holding Weskier's deadly briefcase. I'm going home, Batman replied, fingers flying across the controls to stabilize the collapsing portal. This is my only chance. Jill ran down from the observation platform. Batman, you can't, the portal's unstable. I can stabilize it long enough for one transition, Batman assured her. But I need to go now. Security alarms joined the technical warnings as the facility began emergency protocols. Automated systems announced imminent self-destruction to prevent containment breach. Take this, Batman handed Jill a small data drive from his utility belt. Everything I learned about Umbrella, the virus, all of it. Use it to stop them. Jill took the drive, her professional demeanor cracking for the first time. We needed you here. Your world has its own heroes, Batman replied. I've met some of them. The portal pulsed violently, momentarily stabilizing to show the dark skyline of Gotham City beyond. Leon approached, still carrying Weskier's briefcase. What about him? He nodded to the temporarily paralyzed Weskier. And this? He raised the case. Take them both, Batman instructed. The government will want Weskier alive for questioning. The case contains evidence of everything he's done. The facility's automated voice announced, 5 minutes to containment protocols. All personnel evacuate immediately. Go, Batman urged them. Get everyone out. Jill nodded, understanding the necessity even as she hated it. Thank you. For everything. Batman turned to the portal, calculating the exact moment to transition. Behind him, security personnel arrived to take custody of the paralyzed Weskier. Leon and Jill began evacuation procedures for the remaining staff. As Batman prepared to step through, a small voice called out, Batman. Wait. Emma ran into the laboratory, pushing past surprised security guards. She clutched her teddy bear and comic book, face streaked with tears. Emma. Batman knelt to her level. You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous. You're leaving, she said accusingly. You promised you'd protect us. I have to go back to my world, Batman explained gently. There are people there who need me too. Emma's face crumpled, but she nodded with a child's understanding of duty. She thrust her comic book toward him. Take it. So you remember us. Batman accepted the worn comic, a reminder of a world where he was fiction, yet had still managed to inspire hope. I won't forget. Promise? Emma asked. Promise, Batman replied. The portal fluctuated violently. Final opportunity for dimensional transition, the facility computer announced. Portal collapse in 30 seconds. Batman rose, nodding a final farewell to Jill and Leon. They would carry on the fight against Umbrella and whatever other corporations sought to exploit the virus. He had his own battles waiting. With the comic secure in his utility belt, Batman stepped into the swirling blue energy. The sensation was disorienting, reality itself seeming to compress and stretch simultaneously. For a timeless moment, he existed between worlds, between possibilities. Then, with a thunderous crack, the portal deposited him onto the familiar rooftop of Wayne Enterprises in Gotham City. Behind him, the dimensional tear closed like a zipper, sealing the barrier between worlds once more. Batman stood, taking in the Gothic architecture and perpetual night of his city. Police sirens wailed in the distance. A bat signal illuminated the cloud cover. Home. His communicator crackled to life immediately. Master Bruce. Alfred's voice contained rare emotion. Thank heavens. We've been searching for 3 days. I'm back, Alfred, Batman confirmed, already moving toward the signal source. Alert the Justice League. We have a dimensional security situation to address. Of course, sir, Alfred replied, professionalism reasserting itself. And may I ask where you've been? Batman paused at the roof's edge, the worn comic book await in his belt. Raccoon City was gone, destroyed, erased, existing only in the memories of those who escaped. But its lessons remained. Another world, Alfred, Batman finally answered. One that needed a detective. As he fired his grapnel gun and swung toward the bat signal, Batman knew the experience would stay with him, Jill's resourcefulness, Leon's courage, Emma's resilience. Different world, different battles, but the same core truth he'd always fought for, justice for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Behind him, for just a moment, the air shimmered with fading dimensional energy. Then it was gone, the barrier between worlds restored. But not forgotten. Never forgotten. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.